Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is your AstroShaman Pernell Bobby here with a guest live backstage. We got Hannah checking in out of Belfast, Ireland. She's going to be talking to us today about the North Node finally hitting Aries. It's at 29 degrees, South Node there. Likely we'll do a little bit of recap of what was the North Node of Taurus about, what was the South Node of Scorpio about, so we can better understand the shift, the nodal shift of what we're walking towards. So Hannah is a world-renowned astrologer. She's going to come in with some of her beautiful expertise, and I'm going to go ahead and take the moment to bring her onto the screen now and say welcome, give her a warm applause.
Hi.
What's going on? How you feeling today?
Yeah, for now I'm feeling good. Feeling
What
good.
are you most excited about? What are you most excited about coming into this whole experience with the Grand Cardinal Cross? What are you most excited about, and what are you most nervous about? A little bit of both. Let's just go ahead and take a little vulnerability up front. Like, what are you excited about, and what are you nervous about?
I think I'll start with what I'm nervous about first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I'm nervous about is having to push myself outside of my comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
with respect to just being more instinctive or just pushing myself past any moments of doubt and just doing, just having more of a I can do this, just newness,
Mm-hmm.
things to do with leadership, especially are coming up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Changes of direction when it comes to just business wise. Um, and yeah, it feels quite scary. It does. But at the same time, it's weird because there's also excitement with that. And I think with being an Aries moon native, there is such an excitement with what is new. And I think for a lot of my life, I have pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. I've been daring, I've taken risks, I've been adventurous, those Aries
Mm-hmm.
themes. Um, so I think maybe it's just a matter of being able to recognize when I have pushed myself. So yeah, I think it does tie in with the excitement as well, just the excitement of the new. Uh,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Thousand
What about
percent.
you?
Well, I was kind of telling you as well, like, I don't have a lot of moments in my life where my nerves are just like very obvious and apparent to me, where they're like something's happening until something major is happening. The best I can explain that, like last night, something came to me heavy, and it was like, I'm not sure you're familiar with like Roman mythologies and yada yada yada, but there's a god named Janus. I think Janus, and I just kind of came across it, if you will. Um, and the best I can explain is this God has been coming to me, and it's been like, hey, there are tremendous doors opening and closing. Apparently, he was like the first god of portals and doorways, and like when other gods would kind of be invoked, Giannis would have to be invoked first, so that these other gods can then come through with his whatever his access. And I think he has a picture. Is the guy that has like a face, one pointing this way, one pointing the other way, and is it just kind of signifying like one looking at the past and one looking at the future. And with that vision of both, he would almost know, like he or she, whatever, would know like what doors to open, what would close, and it just really goes together with this North Node. I mean, because I have this. I literally have this nodal, this gate in human design. I have 3 of these gates out of this Grand Cardinal Cross, and so I feel like it's a part of this like nervousness that I'm feeling, because I'm like, I know enough somewhere deep inside my soul that like that I don't know what the hell is about to happen. That's what I know in my soul. Like, and um, I feel like this message that we're going to put out today is actually really, really important for society. And I think this is another reason. These are the fewer times when I do get this nervous, anxious anxiety, because I realize like this is way bigger than me. Like it's bigger than what I can research. It's bigger than what I can, articulate in some professional fashion. It's just the kind of thing where the real fear in these moments is like all I can really do to accurately try to hit this today. And I'm imagining you might be feeling the same, is to allow myself to channel the message. And that's it. It's like it's almost like me taking my intelligence or my intellect and putting it to the side and say, hey, look, you're on pause. You're necessary at a different time. Today, right now, we just got to let what comes through the soul, what flows through the heart, to just step out there and realize that it's going to really be just an example. If they think like today's Leo moon, right? And it's like, I think of it as exemplifying energy, Leo moon. It's like, or just Leo in general. And it's just like, look, go and be an example of what it means to not know what the heck is actually going on, but to follow that impulse anyway, which I think a lot of this Aries is about, and letting go of like social expectations on the South Node. But, what do you feel about this so far?
Yeah, I quite like that you mentioned with the moon being in Leo, because it makes me think about how Venus is now in Leo at 28 degrees, and this is the degree that it's going to turn retrograde at, and then that 28 degrees making that trine even to the North Node right now. So yeah, I do think that it speaks a lot to what you were saying, in terms of your heart space, but then also being courageous, just having the courage to take that leap forward. Yeah, and I do feel similar in that it's like, I know that there's great change coming, especially because with the North Node being in Aries. I mean, this is of course going back to the beginning in a way, even though I know it goes into Pisces after, it's like the reverse, but there's still that, that innocence, that craziness, that wildness, that childlikeness.
Yes.
So yeah, I feel kind of giddy in a way, but I also feel, yeah, quite anxious because of the unknown. And then I also think as well, the North Node being in Aries right now, it's been like a renewal, right? Because we're coming from the South Node being in Scorpio, right? So both of them are like Mars ruled signs. And with the South Node being in Scorpio, that was like a lot of the digging deep, right? A lot of that inner work. But now with the North Node being into Aries, it's like, right, okay, take the things that you learned, that, what came up psychologically for you, emotionally for you, and go and like do something with it. Go and show not even just the world, but yourself that you've overcome so much. And this is really, to me, like the North Node being in Aries, it really is a transformation in a lot of ways because of that newness.
Wow, you said something. So for days I've been seeing, like, if there's anything that talks to me very clearly, it's animals, all kinds of animals, cats, whatever. And lately it's been a beetle. And
right?
Yeah, like it's been a beetle. And I'm like, what the hell does this mean? Like, I've been like really curious. I'm like, what does this mean? What do you mean? Why are you like, it's been like at least 3 days. And it happened today before this live. And finally I go like research it. And the one that came up the most like relevant was actually like these, because when I saw the beetle this morning, I was like, and I found it because my cat was chasing it around. And I was like, gosh, like, please don't kill the beetle. Like, my cat is a supreme hunter. Like, of course, I've done her chart, and she has like a Venus and Mercury and Sag. And I'm telling you, she has like pure hunter energy. And so I looked at the beetle. I'm like, wow, this is giving me like Egyptian vibes. And then, I asked my partner, and she looks it up, and she's like, does a scarab like make sense to you? And I was like, yes. I was like, because I kind of was feeling Egyptian. And essentially, the beetle was saying like, one, they're very important for the ecology of the world we live in, where they kill a lot of pests. They kill a lot of smaller insects who really just bring you annoyance. And the other thing that it was kind of saying was like that they lay their eggs and decompose like horse manure. And so this was an important thing because it started really helping me understand like the horse manure is the Scorpio South Node that we just left. This is essentially what I understood about this. Like, this is the sewer water coming up. This is the horse manure. And it's telling us to lay these new seeds. And I'm thinking of Aries as like seed energy, like literally laying and planting a seed before it's even getting to Taurus, right? Before it's even fertile. It doesn't even care if it's fertile yet. It's like, look, I'm just laying these seeds because I have the desire to do it. and because my heart is telling me to do it, and I'll figure it out later, and I'll change my mind, and I'll change directions very quickly if I realize that this is not the path. And this is kind of how I see Aries in a lot of ways. It's like it's not attached. It's not attached to anything. It very much quickly can just shift that direction. And so it's like laying these seeds, and the garbage that we've seen come up during the South Node in Scorpio, all of our psychological, devices and psychological vices, I want to say, the ways we sabotaged ourselves, the way we sabotaged our intimate relationships, right? The way we struggle with rejection. And I realized it's a huge one with Scorpio. Like, it really struggles with rejection. And I've come to terms with this as a Scorpio rising, and it's brought me more power rather than disempowerment, which is a lot of what happened on the other side when I didn't take rejection well, not understanding where it's coming from, the root causes. And so I'm realizing, like, all this stuff coming up with that Scorpio, this is where now we have the manure of this scarab or this Egyptian beetle, where we can now plant the seeds, and life grows from that. Like, life is growing from these crappy experiences that we've discovered over the last year and a half, that has forced us to reflect over eclipses back to back in Scorpio, eclipses back to back in Taurus. And it's like we were like really having to look at where we didn't value ourselves. And I know that's for myself. I can say that is very true. Like, where I just truly didn't value myself, where that was misaligned of like who I am versus how I respected myself versus forgiveness. When I realized that, like, oh, certain relationships, certain dynamics, certain partnerships, certain intimacies, I did not respect myself for who I am, for what I'm worth. And it's like, this is the crap to me. And it's like Taurus North Node really brought it back. And it was like, hey, by the way, this is your shadow self, Pernell. Like, right, this is my 7th house as a Scorpio rising. It's like, this is your shadow self. And I saw your post the other day, and I was like, useful information, because it really kind of put that icing on the cake for me when I saw that the shadow post that you did with the 7th house and more. So this beetle was what came to me. If you have anything to contribute on that, like, I feel like this is really where now we're in this planting phase. And what we're planting, we don't know the result. And that's the simple reality. And we're not supposed to. The moment we know the result is the moment that Aries is no longer interested. And I'm saying this as an Aries. It's like, once I can see the finish line, I now want to pass it off. And this is kind of what I've been realizing, Aries, we're not here to finish things. That's not our job. We're the innovative seed idea. We have the idea in the head, and we plant the seed through action. We bring it into the world, but then we're supposed to pass it off to people. It's like, I'm only the seed idea. And I realize this is part of the North Node in Aries. It's like, take the seed idea and take the credit there, because there's the other side of Aries that they can get caught in desiring that praise for, like, yo, this was my idea. Like, what's going on? Like, I had this idea and these other people took it and ran off with it. And it's like, well, that's what they're actually supposed to do. Like, that's what they're supposed to do, especially when us or me as an Aries or you as Aries moon, especially once we put that seed out, it's like other people will spread it in a communal fashion, like Libra, better than we can. It's not our drive. We'll lose our energy if we try to focus on finishing all these projects. So I feel like this North Node right there is like, look, don't be too concerned with like any judgment about whether you finish something or not. It's like, when you have an impulse that says go this way, do the best you can to the people that you care for. Let's say your significant relationships, Libra, do the best you can for the people you care for, to say, look, I don't know why I have to go this way, but I just feel like if I do, I'm going to gain a deeper sense of independence. Like, I feel like my independence will be restored. It'll be ignited. And in order for me to better contribute to this relationship, I need to do this right now. And I don't have a cleaner and clearer answer than that. But this is what I feel. And I feel it deep in my heart. It's pulling me, it's resonating, and I must go.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, that's
we got to
powerful.
let go of that people pleasing part with our partnerships. This is what I'm feeling like, because it's like, you know what I mean? Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I love that, the way you put that, Pernell. It makes me think about coming even from the North Node being in Taurus. And I guess with Taurus, there is an element of gaining something, of reward, in terms of material, physical, even just feeling worthy, like feelings of worthiness. But I think you're so right with Aries in that there is that initiation, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about gaining something at the end in like a reward like material sense.
Yeah.
So for example, I guess just drawing from my own personal experience with this, I knew a while ago that I really wanted to create cheat sheets to do with astrology, to break down astrology in the simplest way that I know how. And I mulled over it for months and months and months. And just the vision, I feel like with Aries, maybe this even leans into the North Node being in Aries for many people in terms of the visionary, right? Aries is such a visionary. And you just get that vision. I don't know if you get that, where it's just like you have the vision in your mind and you create it. It starts to build and build and build. I don't know, maybe Mercury comes into that as well, perhaps the Mercury placement, but still, I digress. I was mulling over it for so long, and it just hit me last week. It just hit me. Just do it. I had it because it was already done. But then I always thought to myself, it's done. That's what I've been saying to myself lately. And I know it may seem, perhaps you will relate to this a lot, but even people watching, it may seem maybe a little bit like woo-woo or silly. But I've just been saying it's already done in terms of whatever you want to create, whatever the project is, it's done. And then that actually brings so much ease. And I said that to myself last week. It's done. I mean, I've got it in my brain. I know I need to put it onto the computer or paper, whatever it is, but it's being done, and it just flowed. The whole process, it was done super quickly because everything was created from this vision. And it wasn't about like, I don't know, it wasn't about look at this. It was more about I did this. Like the self, right, with Aries, it's like more about I want to do this to prove to myself that I can do this. And it's great, obviously, to share it and for people to, give feedback and everything. And I take that feedback, and I'm not gonna lie, I like to be validated, and the gratitude and like the appreciation side of things. I do have a lot of Capricorn energy as well, so I do like the recognition. But the Aries part of me, I guess, was just more looking at, I suppose you put it beautifully, in terms of independence. Like, this is something that I created, that is a part of me. This is an extension of myself. This is an extension of what I've been learning.
It's almost like there's two things I'm getting. It's almost like it's an extension of your innocence, right? Like it's just a kid creating. I almost want to go back to my cat again, because like, I mean, she's like my baby. That's the closest I've been to parenthood, right? And it's like when she focuses on something as a kid, any kid, when a kid focuses on what brings them joy, they forget anything else is in the room. They forget everybody else in the room. She doesn't see us anymore. She doesn't see me. She doesn't see her other toys that she likes. She doesn't see anything except for what she's focusing on. And she can easily switch focus and go to the next thing quickly. But I find that when she's involved in something, like, it's so innocent and she's so locked in. And I've seen this with children. I've seen this with my nephew, who's like 2 years old, when I went to visit at home. It's like, when he's locked into something, you can't do nothing to get his attention. And this is the childlike energy of Aries. It's like, it's infectious. And what I really realized is like, especially I've been reflecting a lot lately on, like, I'm in Aries, but I'm progressed into Taurus already. And I'm like almost near the end of Taurus, getting ready to go more into progression of Gemini. And there's just this theme that the North Node reminded and kind of showed me in Taurus. It was like, hey, bub, you may not have consciously recognized this yet, but you're more Taurus than you are Aries now. Like, I just want to remind you that, like, this North Node being in Taurus, like, I want you to really understand that, like, if the sun sign is what we're here to continuously develop, let's just say, it's like, I mean, I was born 24 degrees Aries. It's one of the reasons why I feel like I didn't understand a lot of the post of Aries. Like when I see memes about this quick, impulsive, yada yada yada, I'm like, I've had these moments, sure, absolutely, but generally when I've had that moment once, I didn't really have that moment twice. So like I very quickly understood what I liked and what I didn't like, and I kind of was more in that Taurus, and I stuck to the things that I liked, and I stayed away from the things that I didn't like, and it didn't bother me, right? Like, but I didn't know that consciously, and I feel like this North Node in Taurus kind of reminded me that, like, hey, by the way, and I just want to kind of bring it up because it's like this North Node in Aries, it almost feels like I'm getting back to a part of myself that I feel like I've like already graduated without knowing it. Like it's kind of how it feels. It's like wow, like it's like graduating college and then looking at this major and like, why did I take this major? Like I'm not even using it. And then 7 years later, the major makes so much sense of why it was necessary. Like it's like now that information is coming back after like another decade of, yeah, you didn't take the career path that this major would have laid out and told you to do, but you gained these skills anyways. Like you still know what you know from those courses. And it's like, it's a part of me now. And that part of me, if I look at it like this, bring it back to Aries, it's like that part of me is this innocent child who loves to innovate consistently all day, all the time, so much that most of the innovation no one ever sees. Like in reality, like no one ever sees. And you said something that really hit me where like when I was in the beginning stages of building my company, I built entire systems that eventually they were outdated by the time I tried to put them out. Like they no longer mattered. And that kind of burned me somewhere deep inside. I'm like, damn, like I created all this stuff. I created like an entire empire that seems like it's completely useless now. Like they're just in files on a hard drive, an external hard drive that I don't ever look at. And they're so old now that I'm like, am I even this person anymore? I mean, vlogs while I was traveling the world, like all kinds of weird things like that I just did for myself. And they just got lost in translation. And I'm starting to feel like, I don't know. That's just what came out so far.
Yeah. But I feel like when you say that, in my brain I go to those yes, even though they're outdated, they're still like a part of you, and they still were a part of your journey, and they led you to the person that you have become. And that just shows the power of the progress,
Sure.
and just following your gut, or following what it is that you really, really are excited about, what you really, really want to do. And it's funny you said about with your secondary progressed Taurus, sun in Taurus. And you know what? This is so silly, but I do this a lot. But I thought that your Mercury was in Taurus. When I first came across your videos, I was convinced your Mercury was in Taurus. And then when you said your Mercury's in Aries, I was like, oh, right, okay. I got that wrong. But I think
what made you think it, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I think it is. It's just you are very calming. You're very calming. You're very solid. I think there's like a solid patience with you. And with even, you're saying about doing the breath work, maybe the breath work also leans more toward with your Mars, with that dispositor of all your Aries being in Cancer. But I feel like with the breath work, it's, I love that. I love that from the first live that we did together. It brought me right back to center. And I think that is so awesome when you compare that, or when you combine that, with your Aries energy. And then I also think you said a word there of innovation, innovate. And that is such a key word with the North Node being in Aries right now, with innovating. And I think that is such a power when it comes to Aries. It's the ability to explore those unknown areas. It's the ability to take perhaps what has been created, and to do something, to go in a certain direction with it, or even just to create something completely new, and then that can even lean toward inspiration, inspiring other people, and then even being inspired. I think often we, with Aries energy, there's this like sense of, you can feel inspired by everybody else around you, and then it's like, oh, I want to do this. I get that all the time, where I see incredible astrologers doing wonderful things. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's inspired me so much. I want to do my own version, or I want to do it differently, or that has like struck a chord with me, or there's the idea. I don't know if I said that correctly. Struck a chord, is that correct? Anyway.
It sounds creative to me.
But you know what I mean? It's just it's just taking those ideas, or being hit with an idea, or that spark of inspiration, and running with it.
Yeah.
I think that is such a big part of the North Node in Aries. But then I suppose at the same time with the South Node in Libra, it's I think it is important to also consider, right, let's try and balance this, because I know, for speaking from experience, I can have the tendency of taking on too many projects, kind of leaning toward how the whole Aries stereotype of starting all these projects and then not finishing them. And that has been actually quite a big part of what I'm learning, is trying not to take on so many. And I suppose that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if things don't get completed, it's not the end of the world, but then I still feel like I need to prove it to myself, if you know what I mean. So I think the South Node in Libra may even help with trying to just really properly assess, right, what is the balance here? How can we use more thought, just be a bit more thoughtful when it comes to taking action on things, and even just considering other people as well. I think what the tendency with Aries is to ram through, and it's not really about, considering other people around you. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing all the time, and moments in life require that too. But yeah, I think Libra can still kind of help with the seeing that you're not the only one, and that collaborating and joining together and unifying can be really beneficial, and I even think of the South Node highlighting something to do with gifts and talents that we can share and we can integrate. So I think some of the gifts and talents to do with the nodes shifting here is collaboration. Possibly, we may see many people landing certain business deals or signing contracts and agreements, which may in a way be tied to innovation or tied to leadership. Of course, Libra is even a leader in its own way. I suppose all the cardinal signs are leaders, aren't they? But in different ways.
So you said something, and I wanna touch on it. It reminds me of this. Right now, the South Node at 29 in Libra, it activates in Human Design Gate 50. For any of those who know Human Design on this channel right now, and it's an immune system. It covers the part of our body that's our immune system. And it filters out people who are healthy for us and people who are not healthy for us. That's the simplest way to put it. Specifically people who are healthy for us and people who are not healthy for us. And with it being in the South Node, people who are unhealthy, they're very quickly getting out the way. Even if we didn't consciously understand who was healthy and who was unhealthy, life is like moving them out the way. Specifically, this is what's interesting. The book you recommended me, I was reading it, the North Node, South Node, and that lady, I think it was Jan Spiller, she actually was saying something that works with this Gate 50 that I have up on screen right now, where Libra, when I learned about this Gate 50, Libra has the shadow corruption of, the shadow frequency of corruption. Literally the first one you see there, corruption. And the corruption is through a lot of means, right? The corruption of food. Thank y'all for hitting those thumbs up and those likes buttons, by the way. I see somebody just liked from Facebook, so it's good to see the different audiences coming from different platforms. I really appreciate y'all being here. Definitely show Hannah some love. I didn't actually say this up front. Check out her Cosmic Warriors Club here. I did put it up on screen. But if you want to be a part of a community, these are the time frames. Okay, these are time frames. Come with something to contribute. So definitely hit the thumbs up and the likes button. Thank y'all for being here in this North Node, South Node. We're gonna get very quickly and soon into the Grand Cardinal Cross, which I think actually this is kind of leading some of it. And this corruption, it speaks about the easiest way I can explain it is DNA and RNA. I'm gonna break that even simpler. DNA is this double helix, right? We have this double helix. It makes us human beings. If you add a third helix or a triple helix, we're no longer humans. We're completely something unknown. We don't even know what we are anymore. We might not even have a physical form. And our genes are actually shifting towards this triple helix for everyone just watching. So how long that takes, to be honest, I'm not a genetic scientist, and that's too deep for the conversation in the moment. But it is shifting there, and I can't tell you that. So my point is, before we get into a DNA, there's something called RNA, and RNA is what writes the code, the software program that essentially translates into DNA. But before the DNA does anything, it has to get this code. And I thought it was really interesting. Libra is an air sign. They write, and they're poets, part of Venus energy. They're poetry. And they're writing this code. And so the thing is, it's like, before it gets translated, the code, the biggest problem at the shadow frequencies is that it works through the medium of fear. It works through the lens of fear. And this is the simplest way to put this in easier terms is the media. Literally TV. If you turn on Channel 6 News, or God knows what the news stations are, if you watch that, they will make you afraid of everything. If you watch it long enough, you will think that you have cancer, that you have HIV, that you have genetic modified food and it's killing you. You'll just lose your crap. And the thing is, our minds are always working, right? Let's say Libra again. And so what we're letting go of seeing through the lens of fear. And this is what the North Node in Aries is like. Aries, as a part of Mars, it is accustomed to a lot of fears. There's a lot of fears a part of Aries and Scorpio. We consistently have fears. And I'm saying this as an Aries sun and as a Scorpio rising. As much as people think that I seem like this fearless person all the time, the reality is I have so many fears. I just don't stop moving, and I don't run away from the fear. This is the only natural difference as an Aries Scorpio. At the end of the day, but they're there all the time. Generally, what I'm afraid of is giving me the direction to take. And I know that. And sometimes I still don't take it because I'm like, it still makes me nervous. And other times I'm like, when I feel like, all right, you know what? Well, I don't want to stay here. And I know what's in the past, so I'm not going back there. I'm going forward towards the fear. And that's the only real difference. So my point is, the North Node is going to have us start looking at fear very differently. And I feel like we're going to see something and we're going to be like, wow, this creative project looks awesome. Wow, this unknown space it seems like I should be afraid. And I am afraid. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do the best I can to manage my physical body, my head. Let's say Aries for the head. I'm going to do the best to manage the thoughts in my head, whether it's through breath work or exercise, and just getting all the excess energy out. Because if I can get this excess energy out, then it calms the nerves. Where like last night, it's like I haven't walked for about 3 weeks. I just started really walking again after a basketball injury, right? And so last night I was like, you know what? And over the last couple weeks, it's like, well, I could still do push-ups. I could still do crunches. And last night, for the first time, I hit my boxing bag, not even moving, just hitting the bag, staying still, which usually requires a lot of leg work. But I'm like, look, the legs aren't there right now. And just to help get out some of this extra energy. North Node, to me personally, is going to say, first off, we're going to have to get this extra energy out. That's going to, if we don't, we're going to negatively impact our important relationships, because Aries has way too much energy. And Libra does as well. One stays more in the mind, one's more about the physical body. That's how I see it in an instance, where we already know we have that much physical, that much mental energy in the mind. We also go crazy. And it is easier to start seeing things through fear and become very indecisive. We start talking to everybody about our plans. And the more people we talk to, the more confused we get. I feel like we're letting go of this right now, again, with the South Node and Libra. We're letting go of telling everybody what we're passionate about, what we want to do. Because some of the sad part is like the larger part of the consciousness field is still operating through fear, which means that what we're translating into this physical world is starting with the code is written, the software is written through fear. And that is really harmful to becoming an individual. And it's something I've been realizing. It's like, if I think of corruption, for years now, I've been blacklisted, shadow banned, kicked off platforms. Instagram was one of them. Facebook was God knows how many warnings, consistent. And then when I thought about it and I came to this North Node, it's like the consistent reason why is like, I'm an individual. I can't be controlled. It's just that simple. I've had to learn to not flaunt that because it only brings more unnecessary stress for no reason, right? Like it's like if you state that too loud and you see what happens with certain let's say I don't know enough, but let's just say Andrew Tate, for example. Again, I don't know enough of the situation, but it's like to be in a Roman prison over the accusations that they said, and then nothing is found, and you could just imprison somebody because he's such an individual, he's leading people. This is kind of what I mean. Is like the more you lead as an individual, I've been realizing that this corruption gate is a lot of what is happening, because here's how it works. Libra in this gate 50, which is the South Node, it does not support the group. It does not support the group. Okay, hear me out. It supports the individual. It is the dismantling of hierarchies. This particular gate is responsible, out of 64 gates in human design, this particular one is responsible for dismantling hierarchies. And it aims towards synarchy, or what we can be considered a heterarchy, where it's like we're all one, we all have the equal wealth, we all have the equal status, we all have the equal everything. No one's YouTube channel has 10,000. We all got 10,000 subscribers. We all have, it kind of works in this, everybody has all the same things. And you see us kind of going this way a little bit, and it looks awkward right now in the beginning because we're in this beginning state, we're in this chasm. And that actually is what is gate 6 or gate 3. It's this Aries gate, which says in the beginning, there's chaos. And chaos happens. And when chaos happens, corruption follows. And we've seen this through 2020, whether it's riots, freaking food crisis, COVID crisis, all this stuff. We've seen chaos. And what happened? Corruption was written all over it at the same time. It was embedded in simultaneously. This Libra gate is telling us, instead, let's focus on the individual within the tribe. Let's give them all the support. Let's give them all the tools to be an individual. And we depend on that, because if there's 10 people in one group, as soon as one individual is off, all 10 of us are off. So we as the group, we support that one person to follow their individual impulse. That's what this South Node is trying to tell us, leaning towards Aries in the North Node. It's like, support your individual efforts. And that within itself, us being individuals, supports other people. It supports the group. So, I just, you said something that kind of triggered that thought, where this is kind of where we're walking to the equilibrium. And it speaks about how, like, little by little, this balancing beam, right? The more we support individuals, little by little, the chasm, the gap between the divide in this hierarchy system, it gets smaller and smaller. It might pass it, and then it gets smaller and smaller. Eventually, it gets so small, it gets distal a little bit, and then it just merges. And that's when it hits this frequency of harmony. Considering harmony is that merged point. And let's say this is Scorpio. This is when it officially merges. Like when it finally does it, there's no more balancing to do. It just is this one organism. So it goes from being a single cell organism to a multi-cell organism that is self-organizing. And this is the key, where no one is doing overhead on the Aries to tell them, hey, make sure you do it like this, or make sure you do it like this. They're literally saying, go off and do it alone, period. And by you doing that, maybe you're not a part of this cell in a year from now, but you will be a part of a cell that matches your frequency. And because we're this synarchy, we support that. You don't have to be a part of our individual cell. Maybe you started off there. Maybe we matched this frequency at first, but the South Node in Libra saying, let go of certain significant relationships, significant groups, significant discussions and contracts that you have, and go and pursue you, because you might be leading towards a completely and entirely different, unique group that if you're not being an individual, you can't find them. And then that cell is now suffering because they have a missing link and they're waiting for you. And now the cell that you're staying in, they're also suffering because we can tell that you're different than us and you're kind of messing up our synergy right now. Like, you're messing it up because you're holding back your individuality. We need you to go and be an individual. And if that equates to you staying in this particular cell or this group, then it does. Great. But we don't know that until you try. And this is the entire point of stepping into what is considered this chasm or this gap. And that's the chaos. The chaos that we're all feeling right now on this Grand Cardinal push is the fact that we don't know what is next or now. It is complete and utter dark space. And it is full of fear. And the fear is exactly the direction. This is the simplest thing I can promise you as an Aries Scorpio, that whatever you're afraid to do is exactly the direction. It's exactly the direction. It's the one Mars says take action on relentlessly, unapologetically. And there's this theme that I've been understanding because I've been doing this membership and we're going through the planets and we went through Mars. And it's this reminder that Mars is outside of the radius of the sun. So if the sun is self-development and, potential belief in God being you yourself, your internal authority, Mars operating outside of that domain, considering itself only second to Jupiter, I've been realizing this is important because the sun is very generous still. It is still looking to give that energy to other people. But Mars is much more selfish for a collective purpose. And this is the key, right? That's why Capricorn exalts there. It's still for a collective purpose. It's still for something bigger than itself, which is when it's at its higher frequencies. At the lower frequencies, it's only pure selfish. And then you hit this scorpionic frequency. It's like, look, actually, I'm doing this as a part of everybody, but I do kind of want minds too. I want this energetic exchange. I want this equal exchange. And it can kind of get caught up in messing with that cycle a little bit. And then you got the Capricorn version that says, look, I'm not doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for equal energetic exchange. I'm doing this for generations that aren't even alive yet.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to break down from what you said.
Hit me with it. I'm listening. Hit me. I'm listening.
No, there were, because whenever I'm listening, there's ideas that come, and then I'll continue to listen, and then another idea will come. But I want to properly listen and take it in.
Claro.
But what stood out to me was this idea of independence and being an individual. And I think it kind of speaks to this wanting to be a part of something, wanting to join the group, wanting to be in a relationship.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily about dependency. When you are depending on the person, you're depending on your friends, or, of course, relationships do require a level of dependency.
Sure.
But I think with the South Node in Libra, it can perhaps even just point toward overdoing it, seeing when we are too dependent, where we may look to other people as the authority or as the people who know us better than we know ourselves. And I think that kind of speaks to the feedback part of it. So I think that you were touching on, where, for example, you may have this amazing idea, and the first thing is I'll run it off. I will run it past other people. And then you get feedback from other people, and that feedback can be beneficial, of course, right?
Claro.
You can get good feedback, but it can also, like you were pointing toward, create more of that chaotic energy where there's just more overthinking. Then there's more thought that comes into it. Now, again, I do see this as, I think I have Libra in the second house. My secondary progress ascendant is in Libra. It's been there for a very long time. And I can be like this, where I do the Libra thing where I can see it from one way and then I see it the other way. And then I'm like, well, I can look at this way and then the other way. But Yeah, what I was trying to say there is gaining that feedback can be useful, because then maybe we can add more to the story or add more to the idea, whatever it is. But it's still being able to see, this is my decision to make, right?
Sure.
This, whatever it is, this is my decision to make, and I can't just depend on other people to make that decision for me. I know for me, I've struggled in this in a lot of ways throughout my life, you know, where it's like I don't trust in the decision making for me. And I feel like I need to ask friends, I need to ask my partner, oh, should I say this? Or did I say that wrong? Or could it have been better? And once I do appreciate that feedback from people in my life, I'm also trying to come to learn that I have to be able to make those decisions and choices and be confident in them. You know, it's like, right, what is it you want to do? You want to do that? Just go do it. And then you learn
This is the
along the
transit.
way.
This is the transit. This is so something hit me, right? And it made me think like, okay, if your Libra rising now progressed, I, as an Aries, let's just say, I'm your shadow projection. So if we just take that pause and because I didn't know that, right? I just heard that for the first time. If we take that pause, what is this now telling you? If I'm your Aries 7 projection, and I want to say one more thing, and then before you actually answer that, and it's a general statement about projectors. Projectors, you as a projector, you can see into me better than I can see into myself. That's a natural projector fact. You can see into anybody that you see into better than they see themselves. That is a penetrating ability that only projectors have, that 20% of the population. So
Though
that's
I don't
one
really
side.
see that in me. I don't.
Well, see, I'm gonna put you on. I'm telling you, I'm about to put you on. I'm about to put you on. That's a natural thing. Now the difference, there's another side to that. The caveat is other people can see you better than you can see yourself, and you just said it when you were talking. And that's the weird caveat, but it's just what it is. You can see deeper into somebody's soul at their identity level, at their core identity. You can see another person. Like you said, you thought I had a Mercury in Taurus. Well, progressed. I do have a Mercury in Taurus. Progressed. I'm progressed Mercury into Taurus. So theoretically, you didn't even see where I came from, Mercury in Aries. You saw where I was at in the moment. That's just proof in the sauce. At the moment, you saw what you theoretically couldn't see, but you saw it, and that's just a natural projector ability. The vice versa, projectors, they don't see themselves very well at all. In fact, they can't. And this is where Libra relationships, let's just say, you really do need that feedback in order to deeply see into yourself as a projector. Now, here's the difference, which kind of goes right back to if you get at these higher frequencies of this gate 50, let's say back to this Libra. The higher frequency says something like this. In order to get to the gift frequencies of, let's say, equilibrium that leads to harmony, your auric field, as for who of those significant relationships you allow in, matters more than anything. Because now what we're saying is what? Everyone else can see you better than you see yourself, which means what? You will attract corruption. Because the problem is that people are still collectively in Western culture. And this is the difference. If you lived in Asia, if you live in South America, maybe, this might be entirely different. But you live in a Western culture. And this is one of the largest, most deeply matrix-based systems, which means even if you're out of the matrix as an individual, but you have, as a projector, other people can see you who are still in the matrix, they're likely to approach you because they want something from you. Literally, think Libra, they want something from you. This is Libra, this is exchange. Now, your real discernment starts at the gate. It starts at the gate. It's like who you allow next to you is the most important piece, because you do need those people to reflect. You're theoretically, at any projector, you're not going to see deep enough into yourself to be on course. Now, what's beautiful is you're now having an Aries North Node transit, which says something like, you just got to go off and do that thing by yourself. And then once you're already doing it, you already put it into the world. And then maybe when you get stuck, you have your 1 to 2 core people you refer to. It's not everybody. That's step one. If I'm just seeing what I'm seeing personally from the outside, it's not everybody. It's a 1 to core. And then even with that 1 to 2 core, as you learn to really kind of interdependently rely on them, you're going to then, I feel, at the next stage, intentionally, and I can only say what I have been doing, intentionally choose not to call on them in times of need, rather to talk to them in times where you don't have a need, just to converse. And I've been seeing this for myself. Like if I'm being honest, I got one friend that I refer shit to. And if it's not my one friend, it's my partner. And if it's not one of those two people, it's myself. And that's like those 1, 2, 3s. Everything outside that, and I've been finding myself wanting to call on my partner in some tough times. I remember even hitting him up. I'm like, yo, I'm having a tough time right now. Like, do you have some space to talk about this? And it actually didn't end up happening. Life intervened. And a couple of days later, I was happy that didn't happen, because I realized I got to go through this part right now by myself. And then later, after these next couple steps alone, then I know who I'm coming back to talk to when we talk. I do know who, but I did these steps alone first. And this is a lot of what I think is bringing a lot of fear to people, whereas like a lot of these steps right now, next, they need to happen alone. And on top of that, they're not happening like a social circle. We can't, at this point, we can't, especially family. And I'm saying this because of Venus aspect of Libra, right? Like, especially parents, family, and that Venetian aspect of family. I recently came across this memory. I was like, man, when I first was starting my entrepreneur career, I was getting ready to move from Connecticut on the East Coast of the United States to San Diego in California. And I told nobody. And I'm so happy when I reflected in retrospect that I did it. Because by the time people found out, I was already in Thailand. Literally, I was already moving to Thailand at the time. And when other people found out, I got so much crap about a personal decision to do what I felt I wanted to do. And I realized that why so many people don't make these leaps. Because I'm telling you, at least 80% of the people that was actually around me had more reasons to convince me why this was stupid, why California was too much money, why going to Thailand is too dangerous. They have not been to California. They have not been to Thailand. They have not lived nothing about anything that they have done has done anything to do with the life that I've chosen. And I realized I would have never took that leap. And I also realized that before I took that leap, I used to tell people, I have a Libra 12th house. I used to tell everybody everything. And I didn't understand the dependence I created, 12th house. I didn't understand the dependence I created. And I also didn't understand how much I forsaked myself as an Aries. I basically just said, hey, take my Aries gift of assertion, of self-discovery, which is the major theme, I think, in this is what makes this whole trend so scary. It's self-discovery. Which means, again, my friend couldn't help me discover myself. I could reflect with them once I discovered parts of myself. But I had to take that part alone first. This is the scariest part. This is what we have not done in a long time. Because at the end of the day, there's no one theoretically as selfish, theoretically as Aries. So when was the last Aries transit? Were we even alive? I have no idea. I have no idea when the last transit was, but I think I was dead. I think I wasn't alive yet. Do you know how long it takes the nodes to do a full shift?
I'm trying thinking of the eclipses, because the eclipses take what, 7 to 9 years, and I'm thinking it's probably the same because the nodes and the eclipses are going to happen around the same. Do you know what I mean? When there's eclipses, nodes are never too far away. So I'm pretty sure. I would need to double check, obviously.
So
yeah.
Theoretically, like 9 years.
Yeah, but I would.
So yeah, I definitely don't know that. So I guess I was alive.
Yeah, definitely.
but was I conscious? And that's probably a no. Was I conscious 9 years ago to the level and extent today? Likely a no. For me, I'm talking for myself. Was I conscious of the discussions and the topics I'm talking about now as an Aries? Likely no. I'm positive I wasn't actively being an Aries with any level of consciousness.
Okay, so I just want to my Virgo energy. I'm like very about the correctness, but yeah, I would say they come onto the same nodal axis, but the South Node would have been in Libra 9 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So then another 18 years then for one full cycle about that.
Okay. So now it's funny because now you say 18 years ago and it makes me think I must have been conscious. Right? Now this is funny because I'm saying it because it's like the way I look at it is like I feel like we're born conscious and then we lose it a little bit. We go off track. Life, society, conditioning, blah, 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 blah. And then we have this reawakening over time. So that's a whole nother, I'll get lost in my mind on that. But ultimately I feel like this is a part of the corruption, right? We don't support individuality. I'm going to speak Western culture. Western culture does not support individuality. In fact, the more individual you are, the more a threat to the entire system you've become. And the more, let's say, clout or status you have as an individual, the more dangerous you become. And I've been realizing, like I said this in my own life, like through multiple and various stages. One of the biggest pains for me has been to shut up.
Pains?
Pains, like just pains, like deep-seated soul level pain, like is to just stay quiet. Because there was these moments when I understood like, damn, if I speak what I know now, they'll take me out before I ever have a real chance. Like if I say what I know now, if this becomes public today, they'll take me out of the game before I ever had a chance. And this is kind of literally what happened. I remember in the beginning when I first went to Thailand and I left the Western culture because I was like, look, first off, my soul told me to do it. So it really was a simple decision. It was like, you go this way. And I was like, okay. It was kind of like literally Aries style. It's like, you go this way. I said, okay. I mean, it was that simple. Like I was like, I had a good setup in California. I was there for maybe 11 months. And then out of nowhere, I found a ticket for $400 round trip. And I was like, and I took the trip. I booked it. I didn't even tell my job. And I had a good job at the time. And it was the only thing really sustaining me along with the other things I was doing. And I took it knowing I wanted to move here. I just felt it. I came back and I was like, yo, look, I'm leaving. And I was back in Thailand like 3 weeks later. And I've never been back. I didn't live in the States ever since. And this is years and years and years ago now. But I remember telling my friend, I was in New York City in a subway train station. And I remember telling him. And I felt like I needed to say it in the subway where there was no cell phone service. I remember whispering to him, I was like, yo, I don't know what's going on. I don't know exactly what I'm even saying to you right now, but I feel this fear. And I'm kind of feeling a little bit of the same energy that was what I'm telling you now, the story from 7 years ago. I don't know, one of the two. I'm feeling that same energy now. And I was like, I'm a little afraid. I was like, I feel like I need to go get my defense up. That's what I told him. I was like, I feel like right now, if I say what I know, I'm too exposed and they'll take me out way too soon. And I'm speaking in this instance, again, let's say corruption. Because remember, the South Node in Libra it's squaring the 29-degree Pluto in Cap. All these systems and institutions and hierarchies and over governing bodies that says you can or you can't do blah blah blah. All that stuff is imploding. Keyword imploding, going in before it goes out. It's imploding, and these systems are crashing. Doctors, food that we're feeding people, the pharmacies, pornography, like the list goes on and on of where the conditioning, where we're writing these codes. We're writing these codes before it translates into a part of our DNA. And it's through this lens of fear. And this is where the biggest thing is stopping us from being individuals, because we work as a hive mind. We as people in general, people work more consistently in hive mind than they do as individuals. And the moment you now stand out as an individual, you're the obvious target because everyone else is in a hive mind. So it becomes easy to look and be like, look, crab out of the barrel, grab the crab back down into the barrel, because that crab is doing something that none of us, we're comfortable here. We're in the barrel, we're stuck. And when I learned that about crabs, I realized, like, holy crap, this really helped me understand my Mars and Cancer. It's like, are you familiar with the crabs in the barrel story?
Yeah. I've heard of that before.
So it's the same concept. It's like the moment one crab decides to be brave enough to go out into this unknown world, which AKA outside the barrel, which it might really be happier because now it can find a beach, it can grow a family separate from this cage, and it can create its own environment. And I've been realizing it's the environmental control that we are. In some way, shape, or form, there's the structure that our environment, all of our environment has a certain level of restriction, a certain level of control, a certain level of limitation that this gate 60 or Pluto in Capricorn is saying we got to learn to be realistic and work within these constraints. Trying to pretend that the limitation doesn't exist is not going to be helpful. Like, things exist, constraints exist, rules exist, and they exist for a reason, but they also change, and they also get outdated, and they also decay. And this is a lot of what is happening right now at a global level. They're decaying. And I feel like with this whole Grand Cardinal push, it's telling us a grand story. It's really having us. The thing is, like, we've been very distracted, and this is a little bit more of Cancer side. Cancer is helping us do this quantum leap. The Sun in Cancer is helping us do this quantum leap, and it actually, and I can type it here. 56 distraction, intoxication, enrichment. So this, and then I want to pass it back to you to really hear some feedback of what you say. So if you have a question too, write it down. Like, don't forget it. Like, I want to break this wide open because I feel like there's a lot of stuff happening. And okay, just if you have a question, definitely write it right after this. The thing is, we're our five senses, smell, touch, taste, sight, like, they're tremendously distracted, whether through overstimulation or repression, one way or another. They're distracted. Television is one example. Let's say through the eyes and the sight, the food and all the chemicals in it. Let's say through the taste, and it's like addicting to eat sugar. It's the simple fact. Sugar is like cocaine. Like, let's be real. Like, you have a lick of that, you just like, I want more. Alcohol, whatever the hell it is. But I'm gonna say sugar in a moment because it's one of the naturally easily addictive. Our five senses, the world has distracted us, and they've done such a great job distracting those senses that don't allow us to pursue and really, like water can do, work through these hidden corridors of our ego self, aka, let's say, the sun or our individuality, right? Like our inner authority, our inner power, which makes us more easily reliant and dependent on another person. Keyword is dependent or codependent, not interdependent, which is what I feel we're all working towards. All of us is working towards harmony, towards interdependence. But in order to do that, I found that we have to first become individuals to break the codependence. And once we break the codependence as individuals, then we have to surrender our separateness again as individuals to then become interdependent and actually rely on somebody in a healthy way rather than in a toxic or self-sabotaging way. Because that's a lot of what these codependent relationships do. It's actually really self-sabotage disguised as something completely different. It's like, look, I don't really want to go and be an individual and be my true self. So I can lose myself in this person. whether it's food, or like I said, whether it's porn or alcohol or God knows what. And the thing is, this is the distraction that Cancer is actually helping us navigate through in this, crab-like side-to-side manner. And as we work through that, we start now being able to do exactly all those same things I said, but we choose the things that enrich our body, that enrich our minds, that enrich our souls, whatever the hell that is, whether it's more sleep, whether it's doing some breathing, whatever it is, going to a garden, deciding I'm not going to work today because then I'm an entrepreneur and I can do that. Like, it's freaking Monday and I don't want to work. It's a moon day. I'm an astrologer. It's moon day. Why don't I do what moon day things do? I'm going to take care of myself instead, right? And it's like we start doing things that enrich us. And then when we get to this level of intoxication, it actually speaks about Cupid, which is funny, but it speaks about Cupid from the word, I think Greek or Latin, the word toxin. And toxin, the original word was arrow. And it's speaking about Cupid's arrow, but not Cupid's arrow how it's been modernized as in chasing love and Valentine's Day and blah, blah, blah. Cupid's arrow in this divine love fashion, which literally goes back to self-love. Because we all know that when we love ourselves, that's when we attract our true divine partner. We don't attract it because we want love or we want a partnership. We attract it because we want true love. If I'm being honest, like, I've wanted true love in business relationships. It's a thing. It exists for me. It's very much been romanticized. Again, I'm going to say my Libra 12th house. It's very much been romanticized. Very much. I want a true love in it. And so it's like, for me, this is what makes this relationship for me with you, it makes it so special. It really does, because it's like I had to do God knows what to, in this relationship, let's say intimate spaces of merging with somebody in some capacity on a business level, not in a love level, in a platonic or business status, to merge with myself and work through this south node garbage of Scorpio and lean into this north node stability of Taurus, right? My shadow self. And through that, then you come. Like, then you come. And when I say then you come, it's to give clarity. When I look at you and I see it, it feels more like you have the same exploratory mind as mine. And like, I mean, I'm a Venus in Gemini, let's be honest. Like, I mean, like, I really value the mind. Like, I value the creativity and the change and the shifts and, just not being very goal orientated towards creativity in the spaces of creativity specifically. It's like, look, there's no real goal here. I just got to create. I need it. I need to create. Like, it's a necessity. It's a deep seated desire of mine. And it's like, this ended up starting to match on a frequency level with like your energy. Like, when I first met her, I was like, damn, she's a really pure person. And this is what you were saying earlier, I feel like people see this, people see your purity. But as a projector, again, they can see that more deeply and theoretically speaking. And so this is where that Libra energy is like, look, for this singular unit, we got to really understand that we have to be willing to feed individuals at a level of equality. Feed individuals and understand that individual will do their part as an individual and they'll support the group. But the thing is, it's a level of intimacy that requires honesty and trust. And this is what Aries will make sure it forces out of us, because Aries doesn't have ulterior motives. Libra really does have ulterior motives. And I'm just making that as an open statement. We can call it subjective, but I truly believe it. Like, Libra has ulterior motives. Like, it looks for favors. It is considering favors. And Aries is like, look, I'm not even that deep yet. Like, I'm truly not that conscious. Like, I'm just out here living life. And the next thing that interests me. And I want to open it up to you.
So much. Okay. So you mentioned about Eros. Cupid, right? Cupid. And it makes me think about the mythology of Eros and Psyche. And we do have those asteroids. I believe they're asteroids in the chart. And when I think about Eros and Psyche, that story, even when we compare it to Aphrodite, so Venus, you were mentioning there about there's a type of favor with Venus. And I think I think what Eros and Psyche points toward is it's the type of attention and appreciation that we gain without having to force or without having to kind of seek that appraisal. With Venus energy, that can show up as, yes, recognize me, love me, appreciate me. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, of course, but I do think that there is that quality to Psyche in that it's the type of attention that you gain, you don't really have any say in the matter, and that can actually be within itself quite a pure sort of thing. We talk about purity, and it just made me think of Psyche in the chart. I think Psyche right now is in Gemini, because I did look it up. So, but anyway, I don't want to go too off on a different path with that, but it's just something that came to my mind when we think about Venus versus Psyche. But then again, Venus is in Leo right now, and with the retrograde coming up, even with that combination too, so that trine to the north node in Aries, and then that sextile even to the south node in Libra.
What do you think that trine and sextile are opening? Like, what do you think that's interpreting? How do you interpret that? The trine of to Venus and Leo?
Venus and Leo, yeah.
Because I didn't even notice it. So I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it speaks to acceptance, self-acceptance. A lot of it speaks to being honest with ourselves about what it is that we desire, even reconnecting with our childlikeness, reconnecting with the things that we seek. Even, you were saying about the difference between codependency and interdependency, and like I was saying earlier too, there is a level of dependency that I think is required within relationships. So I think it speaks to that. I think Venus, even with the retrograde, it's going to speak to us seeing what it is that we need with respect to relationships, and having that openness and that honesty with our partner, with our friends, whoever it is, and with ourselves, even with the North Node being in Aries. And then something else I think which was quite interesting to do with Cancer, because you were talking about, with of course the sun still being in Cancer.
Sure.
I can't quite remember the exact words that you used to
intoxication, enrichment, and distraction.
Yes, the distraction side of things. Yes. Okay. So, okay, how do I word this? What I've been learning quite a bit about in therapy is it kind of leans toward the whole fear stuff, right? The fear, distraction, being even consumed by the fear, or by looking out at the world and seeing the corruption, even with Pluto retrograde right opposite the sun in Capricorn. And just how much I used to be so incredibly plugged in to all of that. I would absorb a lot of information, and take in a lot of information to do with, oh my gosh, this is happening in this place and that place, and oh, this is on the news, and also just being very concerned and obsessed. Even I do have the third house in Scorpio, so the south node was in Scorpio for me, and it's been looking a lot at my obsessions. But I can obsess, and thinking even about sugar, sugar and eating and all these things. But the point being is, I think it brings it back to balance, in that, for me anyway, for me, it's okay to have a bit of sugar every now and then. It's okay to indulge in something that may be considered quite like naughty or like distracting, and yeah, at least that's what's been coming up for me. It's being able to sort of police yourself in a way, being able to kind of say, okay, right, is this a problem? You know, is
Sure.
me having this sugar or caffeine, even people with alcohol, right? This is something I've noticed even quite recently. This is so interesting because with Saturn being in Pisces, I have noticed so many people just giving up alcohol cold turkey, just going, no, don't need it. And I see this on YouTube and just YouTubers making videos about it and content creators. I even have a really close friend and she's just, that's it. Like she's doing a year where she's not consuming any alcohol. And I just see that as so Saturn in Pisces, where many people are just reassessing their,
That's
you
so
know, their
funny. I did the
vices.
same thing. I did the same.
Really?
I didn't attribute it to Saturn and Pisces, but it makes total sense. Yeah, like I think like months before my birthday, I didn't drink anything for months before my birthday. But my birthday was on the Aries eclipse, actually. It was like really close to the eclipses, both of them. And I want to know, I took a vacation for myself, a solo vacation, and it was a very quiet place. And I just was there, and the owner gave me a free bottle of wine. Like it was an Airbnb, and it was just a wine that was there. But days before I got there, I was already kind of like considering, like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And then I get there, and like it just, something hit. It was like, you know what? For no matter what, for a year, I'm not even going to debate this. I'm going to make the decision simple. And I just decided. I just made a literal decision. And from then, it just seemed like I didn't crave it at all. And it's funny because he had tequila in the house too. And tequila is my favorite. Like, if I'm doing anything, I'm drinking tequila. Like, it is what it is. And it's like everybody around me knew it too. Like, it's like, don't even offer me nothing different. If it ain't tequila, it ain't it, period. And so maybe I would have drank some wine, but it's just funny because you said that. I just got off target, but you said that, and I made that simple decision too. It's weird. And I have not had a single craving. Like, in fact, I'm almost like, it makes me queasy a little bit, actually, to like think about it. It's really strange, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And I think in general, there's sort of like this reevaluation of those addictions, those vices, those things that we depend on. I know that's kind of leaning, of course, back to the Pisces energy, but I suppose even at the same time with the sun being in Cancer, there's still that trine happening to Neptune retrograde for us all. So yeah, I just think that with the Cardinal Grand Cross, especially, you know, coming to the very end of Cancer season, it kind of is like this fresh, there's like a fresh bathing quality or a cleansing, that's the word, like a cleansing quality to it, and a type of renewal, right? A release, a renewal, a revival. And perhaps many of us will kind of know in an instant, maybe even what you were kind of leaning to, because you said that about in an instant you just give up the alcohol and you didn't even really like think about it, you know, maybe
it wasn't even a plan.
gonna...
No, it wasn't. Like, it just happened. Like it just hit me. It was just like, I just kind of was thinking about, when did I drink alcohol? And that was, I think, the key. And I started realizing that the times that I would drink alcohol would be times that I'm in environments that I didn't want to be in. And that is something I realized before I decided the cold turkey part of it. And they weren't, in my mind, they weren't connected. Like, they really didn't connect. It's just something I kind of observed. And it kind of made me feel like, when I heard it like that, I was like, ew. Like, when just to myself, like, I didn't even have this conversation. This is the first time I'm having this conversation, actually. Like, but when I heard it like that out loud to myself, I kind of was like, ew. Like, well, why am I around these people? And again, like I said, I have a Libra 12th house, right? Like, literally, like, so I'm like, why am I interacting with these people if I can't be around them if I don't have alcohol in my system? And that kind of hit me. I was like, well, yeah. So step one was, I was like, I'm going to stop being around these people because that don't make sense to me. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I don't want to. It's not even a shouldn't. I don't want to be around somebody that I feel like I have to drink with. And then from there, that kind of like, I think like 2 months or so just happened randomly. And then my birthday came. And then it was just like, the guy offered the alcohol. And so it was like, hey, you know, happy birthday. Because he did the whole thing. He was really nice. He was like, hey, happy birthday. He got me wine. Oh, that's how I knew. Because when I read the reviews on Airbnb, everybody said the guy leaves you a bottle of wine. So I knew before I went. that's how I kind of had a heads up a little bit. And then when I saw the wine bottle, I looked at it. I even put it in the fridge for a little bit. Like I even like put it in the fridge to get it a little cool. And then I looked at it again when I opened the fridge, and they looked at me and it had this like condensation coming out its arm, right? Like, and I was just like,
Drink me.
I was like, yo, literally, it was a whole thing. I was like, you know what? I'll save this guy some money. He can use it for his next guest.
Yeah.
And the funnier one was the tequila, because like I said, it was there and it was already open and it was free to use. And I was like, I looked at it and I was like, nah, I don't, but I do think it was part of the eclipse. Like I was there at a 29-degree eclipse. Aries 29 degrees, right? And I feel like that eclipse is really the starting point to this North Node transition. Yeah. So there was just this theme that kind of came to me after, because it didn't happen consciously up front. After, in reflection, it helped me realize, I was like, man, I started doing things that has been in my head and been in my heart for so long. It's almost like when the moment I stopped drinking, like all these things just started happening. That's been in my head and been in my heart for so long. Long-term big dreams that I've had that I just maybe took some modicum action on. And I just found myself kind of distracting myself with daily mundane things instead of like taking charge in the things that actually I really wanted to accomplish. I would just get myself caught up in things that didn't really matter on the big scale. And I just kept doing these small things, worrying about the dishes. I have a South Node in Cancer, so maybe this explains it best. Just worrying about things around the house. I'm like cleaning this little corner, washing dishes, refilling water, like all these just things that like I was never gonna stop doing any of those things, right? Like at the end of the day, like they're always going to exist, and I realized that I was using it as a distraction. The key thing with this gate, the gate 56, the one of Cancer, it's not saying get rid of any and all these things. It's actually saying the exact opposite. It's kind of saying closer to what you said. It's like, can you be emotionally honest with your use? That's the key. That's the only real key. It's like, I'm not telling you not to eat the Twinkie. It's like, if you want the Twinkie, eat the Twinkie.
Just don't have 20 of them.
Don't have 20 of them. And it kind of speaks of like, eat it when it enriches your soul, not when it's used as a distraction. And this is the key. Somebody in this chat told me this actually. He blew my mind when he said it. It's like, first, this gate 56 is like, okay, look, we got these vegan donuts down the street from us. They're fucking delicious. They're mad good. They're like, you don't even think they're vegan because they're so good. And they got 2 for $1 on Tuesdays. So Tuesday was like yesterday. And I was like, man, I've been missing every Tuesday. Like, I want to get these donuts. But it kind of was a little out of the way based off of what we had to do in the day. And I was talking to my partner and she's like, oh, well, are we going to get the donut? Yada, yada. And then I was like, you know what? It just seems like it's too much today. So we didn't get it. We missed the 2 for 1 deal, right? And it just hit me later. It was like, man, this is what this gate is talking about. It's like, it's not that the donut wouldn't have been good. It just would have been so much more soul enriching after this live or tomorrow before the play. It's kind of saying like, do it when it really enriches your soul, not just because. So for me, it was a just because I've been missing Tuesday 2 for 1 for weeks. Like for weeks. I'm like, God damn it, I keep missing that 2 for 1 deal. And then finally I had the day where I could get it, but it wouldn't enrich me on that day. Because first off, I wanted one for myself. My partner would have had one, right? But she's like, I'm not even going to be home until like 10. And I'm not trying to eat the donut at that time. So I'll eat it for tomorrow. And I was like, what's the point of having a fresh donut the next day? Like, it just didn't make sense, right? Like, and it was like, it wasn't enriching. So this is kind of what this Cancer energy is trying to help us. It's like, in order to take these quantum leaps, just be aware of when we're distracting ourselves through our 5 senses. And realize that when we do these things on moments when they're enriching and we're aware of the distraction and we're distracting ourselves on purpose. because this is a natural Aquarius thing to procrastinate on purpose and then magically get everything done and possibly like how like right like it's a natural Aquarius trait. So it's like to procrastinate on purpose and just be aware of it. That's all it's really saying. Where then it says like at these intoxicated levels, it's like by you exhibiting a deep sense of self-love for yourself, for doing more enriching activities, enriching whatevers, it's like now you could take a sip of wine and it seems like you're getting this drunken high and you could literally not take another sip. It's like you're having the full experience at that level, doing it in these enriching moments as you keep practicing it. And it's a little by little process, like, right? Like I'm not telling nobody this is an overnight thing. What I'm telling you is this grand cardinal cross is squaring Capricorn and it's squaring Libra. I'm sorry, y'all get the point. It's squaring the 90-degree angles. It's squaring Aries and Libra, my bad. It's squaring Aries and Libra. And so what it's really saying is are you eating your emotions? And this is what my guy who's on here, he said this. And he is like, I had did a one-on-one reading with him. And he was eating like cauliflower pizza. And he don't even do that shit. But, excuse my language. But he was like, he's like, did you notice what I was doing? I was like, no, what's up? He's like, well, I decided to eat this on this call because, you know, like you eat your emotions. And I know that when I have these sessions with you, like it lifts my spirit up. So I want to eat while it's lifting my spirit and embody that embodied spirit, that embodied upliftment. And he hit me with it. And I was like, oh my God, how many years have I ate my feelings? Like I didn't even like, it was just this wild revelation. It blew my mind when I thought about it. Like, I'm like, I've come to terms with understanding, wow, I have a lot of unprocessed emotion just being stored in my body. I've just come to terms with that. And I've been working through it and yada, yada, yada. And then when I realized, I'm like, damn, I'm thinking specifically like 3 years ago during like 2020 quarantine for me. And I was just eating my feelings like no tomorrow. Like, and it hit me one day. I was like, oh, wow, I'm emotional eating. And I saw the term somewhere and I was like, wow, I'm definitely emotionally eating. But I really didn't give too much energy to it. I was like, whatever. Like, because I was in it, right? Like I was deep in it. Like I was in it. So it didn't matter. It's like, I read it, cool, but I wasn't really ready to fully receive it. And 3 years later, it's now 2023, I'm hearing him say it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is kind of what I meant with the Libra energy of the South Node, where this is it being programmed, the software being programmed through fear up front, where, well, in 2020, there was a crap ton of fear going around, collectively speaking, right? That's just the obvious with the pandemic. That's the obvious. And I was already in Colombia. I'm like not in my home country. Every foreigner left, right? Like there was like 15 Europeans in the place I was staying. They all left in like a week. It was the craziest thing to see it. And I definitely was eating my feelings. And it kind of just came back where I realized when he said that, I'm like, man, I'm going to try to do my best now, 3 years later, to be more mindful of when I eat, because it is a very instinctual stress response for me. I eat. When I have anxiety, when I'm nervous, when I don't know what's coming next, I eat food. It's just a natural response. But the thing is, it's like, I'm not necessarily, based off of this gate that we're talking about now, and this Cancer energy, I'm not necessarily eating it in enriching moments. And now what's interesting about this is me talking about eating healthy food in stressful moments, right? It doesn't actually matter. It's still not really enriching me. It's the kind of thing where when I'm done eating, I still feel hungry. But the why is because it's not happening in these enriching moments. It didn't matter if the meal was fulfilling. It didn't matter if it was healthy. At the end of the day, I didn't eat it at an enriching moment. I ate it out of an anxiety. And that is what I began to embody inside of my body. And so as I became more mindful of that, I'm like, I'm noticing a difference, like drastically. It seems like these overnight, wow.
Yeah, and yeah, that makes me it just makes me think about those emotional reactions to anything. You know, you're saying about eating, emotional eating, but yeah, like it can, you know, whatever however it shows up, and whoever's watching this right now, your life personally, consider what those sort of dependencies are. Consider even your impulses. I think even with Aries energy, there's a lot of impulse involved, and there can be a lot of strength in pulling back whenever you feel that impulse. It actually can be really rewarding to just wait a moment, or to think, to reflect, take a beat. Even that Libra energy pertains to that a little bit. But then another thing I want to say is, you mentioned about with the solar eclipse happening at 29 degrees in Aries, and with then the Cardinal Grand Cross happening basically on that same degree. So that's very powerful for many of us. And then at the same time, I'm pretty sure the Venus Cassimi happened on the 22nd of October 2022. Venus Cassimi was in Libra. So the Sun and Venus conjunct in Libra at 29 degrees. So there's the Venus Cassimi, I think, really looks at like a rebirth, right? This sort of rebirth when it comes to the relationship side of things, worthiness, all the basically just all the Phoenician things, right? But more specifically with this happening then in Libra, and then with the eclipses going to happen, the South Node now in Libra, I think that what is about to come up is part of that bigger story. So this story that has actually been unfolding for months and months and months, and I think it does go back to, I think that word you said about equilibrium and harmony, and kind of seeing, weighing out your life, weighing out your options, weighing out your choices, weighing out the things that you do versus the things that you don't do. And there's just a lot of that kind of going back and forth, seeing the pros, seeing the cons, and especially with Venus then being retrograde in Leo, I think this adds that quality of, the inner child. And I think there's a lot of us going to be revisiting our inner child, or revisiting, like you said, that word of innocence. There is a big part of innocence when it comes to Leo. But then, of course, Venus retrograde will conjunct the Sun. So there will be the inferior conjunction on the 13th of August. So that will be like a revival. That will be a big moment of clarity, I think. Even with Black Moon Lilith being there in Leo right now, and it will be there around that time period. And Juno will even enter Leo throughout August as well. I mean, August is going to be quite an eventful month, I think. Really look at your Leo house, everyone. But again, if we bring it back to the cardinal signs, with the Cardinal Grand Cross, I think it's leaning more toward action and leadership and initiation, and saying, okay, well, what is the next step here? Yeah.
You made me curious about I feel like Lilith in Leo is a sleeper cell, like I'm curious about your thoughts on Lilith in Leo, because wasn't it very close to the Venus? Right? What do you feel like the Lilith, specifically Lilith's role in Leo, has as a supporting agent to this Grand Cardinal Cross?
I think a lot of it has to do with, I think you said a closing cell, and what, isn't that what you said, a closing cell? What comes to my mind when you say that is, it's the suppression that can come with Lilith. It's the parts of ourselves, which it's so interesting how things come full circle, how, when you go along and then it comes back to a point, because you mentioned this at the very beginning in terms of your individuality, in terms of a lot of the times our individuality is shunned, right? There's a lot of ridicule, I think, when it comes to Lilith, because if you think about the mythology, Lilith was shunned, and there's whole exiled, or some versions say that she was exiled. Other versions say that she flew away on her own, if you know what I mean. But I think what this is suggesting is this awakening of the inner child, of our creativity, of play, of our innocence. But that can be a very triggering, a very difficult thing. And that's what I like to focus on a lot, even with clients and readings that I do. It's the feelings. It's your feelings, it's your emotions, because it's your feelings and your emotions that can often hinder us, and I think they need to be honored in a lot of ways. And it's going back to the why. Why is it that you feel a certain way? Why is it that you feel like you can't express yourself? Now, I actually have Black Moon Lilith in, so well, it would be in the 5th house using the Placidus. And I think that is kind of similar in that, oh gosh, vulnerability. In that, growing up, the parts of me that wanted to express, the parts of me that wanted to create, were very judged, very much ridiculed, called to show off, called all these names. But a big part of my Lilith journey, so to speak, liberation, I guess, as well, because Black Moon Lilith is tied to liberation and independence and freedom, right? I think a big part of that is coming to a place of, no, I'm going to express, and it's not about that validation from other people. I'm not looking for the go ahead from other people to be able to express who I am. It's actually about being able to express who I am because I want to. That's been it sounds very vague the way I'm putting it, and I feel like I could go into more details, a way to explain it better. But for me, that's been a huge theme throughout my life. And I also think that then with Black Moon Lilith being in Leo, right? Leo, the sign to do with self-expression and validation as well, and applause. I think Black Moon Lilith in Leo, in combination then with that Aries energy as well, it's like, right, okay, show us what you've got here. Just speak, just do the thing, just create the thing, do it for yourself. I think it just adds, I think Black Moon Lilith adds a level of and say this, I do not give a F, like that kind of thing.
Sure.
F you,
So
if
when you put that in, and thank y'all for hitting the thumbs up and the likes button, whether on my channel or Hannah's, I appreciate it. Check out the subscription. If you're not familiar, go ahead and do it. For everybody out there, we're also running a retreat here in Guadalajara, Mexico. I saw somebody ask where I'm from. I'm from Guadalajara, Mexico. I'm not from there, but I live here now. We are running a Sacred Innovators retreat. So if you're interested, just check the profiles on the bios. That said, when you were speaking, you hit me with it made me think like Lilith and Leo is really like, you know what? Like, I'm not gonna get the attention and the praise that I deserve no matter what. Whether I express my creativity in its highest expression or whether I did nothing at all, I'm gonna be ridiculed regardless. And so I'm gonna earn it for myself. Like, I'm gonna earn it for myself. I'm gonna put that project out. I'm gonna put that piece of art out. You know, I'm gonna do that thing that has been requiring my bravery. That's been requiring an internal sense of security based off of my own internal power. I'm gonna go do that thing, not because of any other reason other than it's a deep-seated desire. Like, it's so deep that I no longer care anymore. Like, because life has already shown me that whether I'm doing well, I'm somewhere in the middle, or really crappy, one way or another, I'm going to receive criticism. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that thing and earn it. I'm going to earn it. I'm going to earn it. I'm going to do it through earning. Because when I think of Leo, like, I always think of like, when I think of Leo, I actually think of earned praise. Like praise that we earned when we did the thing aligned with internal authority. And that's the key caveat, right? It's like, when I did the thing aligned with an internal authority, it's like at that point, when I get praise, I'm not really flinching. I'm not even really smiling or like bat my eyelashes, because it's like, I know that I earned it. Like, at the end of the day, I earned it. So I'm not going to lie, like, I don't enjoy the praise, but at the same time, it's not going to lift me up and take me out of my center. And I feel like when you were just explaining it, I feel like this is a big part of it. And because this happened the other day, and I had told a guy, like, we ended up taking in one person for the retreat, for example. and went through like a 3-week application process, yada, yada, yada. And I asked the guy, I said, how does it feel in your nervous system? Like, you come into the retreat here in Mexico, like, how does this whole decision, this whole process feel in your body and your nervous system? Because it's been a very important thing for me with this whole North Node in Taurus of like doing what is comfortable to my nervous system. Like when it comes to earning potential and making money, when it comes to clients, when it comes to my self-worth, when it comes to my art, whatever it is, it's like, does this bring more comfort to my nervous system? And I've been finding a lot of power in that versus the South Node, because I actually have a North Node in the 2nd house, and I have a South Node in the 8th house. So it kind of really hit me in alignment in a different way. Not Taurus, it's not Taurus, but it's the houses, if you will. Yeah. And that has been a key lesson. So I asked him, and then I shared with him as well, like how I felt afterwards, how did it feel in my nervous system. And I told him, I was like, honestly, you know, when I didn't even notice that the deposit even came in and all that stuff. I didn't even notice until like a day later. When I did notice, I was laying in bed and I was like getting ready to just like dick off, to be honest. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not working. I know that. And it was the middle of the day. It was like 11 in the morning. Like literally like 11 in the morning. I was like, I might watch Netflix. I might read and do some reading for this today. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know what I was going to do. I was just laying in bed and I'm talking to the guy, and I told him, I was like, you know, in the past, when I was doing events like this and somebody would come, I would get so overly excited and I would leave my comfortable position of not knowing what I'm going to do, but I'm here, I'm not doing the nothing, but I would leave that position. I would have gotten on my computer, and without even really knowing what I needed to do, I would start working on something, because I would feel like I need to earn my position here. I need to earn, you know, I need to earn the right of passage for this guy to come. Like, this guy's coming, like I can't be slacking off. My mind would have went through all these things and I would have likely acted on it. But instead I told him, I was like, you know, how I know that this is right for me as well, even as one of the 2 people running the retreat, is that like my body didn't go crazy. Like I'm happy about this. This is great news, but I'm not this over the top anxious now. Like my nervous system's not shocking me, telling me you got to get up, you got to move, you got to send him more stuff now. You got to like essentially overprove yourself in a way. It's like, it kind of hit me, and I told him, it's like Pernell, this is like your 5th retreat or so that you've ran. You really know what you're doing at this point. Like, you deserve to be able to feel comfortable in this moment and not either on this extreme high or this extreme low. Because I've had the exact opposite during accomplishments as well, where I accomplished something huge and then I'm completely freaking depressed. Like, I've had that happen on the extreme low, and I used to be so confused, like, what the hell's going on? So it's like, I didn't hit this low, I didn't hit this high. Instead, I just laid in bed. And I did nothing. I actually didn't even watch TV. The whole day, I actually never ended up turning the TV on. I just laid there. And it was like that. So when I'm hearing Lilith and Leo, when I heard a little bit of what you're saying, I feel like we're now getting to this place with the Leo aspect where we're like, look, no matter what, I'm going to be ridiculed. And I have come across this over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, look, damn, the more I be myself, the more hate I get. It's weird as hell, but it is what it is. I just got to start accepting that. Like, it's just a part of it. There's a part of me that's like, this is stupid and I want to do something about it. And there's another part that's like, first off, what are you going to do? like at the end of the day, like, first off, what will you do if you could do anything? And then second, it's like, it is what it is. And it started helping me understand this actually is a sign that you're on track. Like, and this is what I want everybody to understand for the North Node in Aries. Like, do understand, I truly believe this. The more individual actions and passions that you pursue over this next year and a half, I really believe this, without having to get crazy negative about it, that the more hate you will attract. I truly believe it. And I think it's one of the reasons why Aries exalts in the sun in general, where it's like, same thing. Leo gets a lot of hate. Leo gets a crap ton of hate no matter what they do. Aries, I feel like I've learned that, like, they get it, but they don't notice it as much as Leo does. Like a lot of it time is just like somewhere behind my head, and like it catches up to me later. Like it's always late. I'm like, what happened? But it's like you gotta like look back because you're moving forward, right? Like you're consistently pushing forward. And then it's just this moment when you look at the wake of what happened in the process, you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, why are people feel this way? And I'd be like really confused and concerned and like, if I'm being honest, sensitive to the matter of like, I don't understand how that is the result. Like, I'm really happy about blah, blah, blah. And so I just want everybody to really feel, I feel like this Leo aspect is like that second evolution of Aries when Aries stabilizes as this fixed fire. When Aries kind of hits that stabilization with the Lilith and Leo aspect, where at this point now, I feel like we should all be kind of trying to aim and hit this point where we can recognize low frequency energies of rage, hate, jealousy, and ultimately take that and say thank you for the fuel. And I can only tell you that that's the best that I've been able to do with it for myself at a personal level. Is just go, oh wow, that's energy. And I had to make a shift in my mindset with this. I won't lie to you. I had to go, wow, that's energy. And I started using it. I transformed it. I just literally transmuted it and was like, you know what? Let's put love back into this. Because it's like at a deep heart level where like when I look at it, it's like there's only really one reason that this comes. And it kind of goes into the Leo gate, which is gate 29. It's the Venus in Leo retrograde. There's a video out about it. It goes into gate 29, which speaks about half-heartedness. It's like anything you do half-hearted, it will return and you will lose it. You take a client, but you really didn't want to take them, you're going to lose that money. You start a new job and you really don't want to work there, you're going to lose it. You start a relationship, you start a partnership with somebody, but you really half-hearted, you kind of had one foot in, one foot out, you didn't know, you went into it with fear, you're going to lose it. Especially relationships because of this Venus. Because it's Venus, I mean, it is the relating planet. So this is going to be a big thing. Anything that happened half-heartedly, without any level of commitment. And I started realizing that this is the Leo energy. This is what's so powerful about Leo. It's like when Leo commits to something, you can't do anything about that commitment. Like it's over. Count it done. It's like, and that's the key. When they commit, when they're in this half-hearted state, this is when a lot of trauma kind of rises and they attract a lot of drama. This is when Leo hits a lot of drama. It's when they're not committed. Because I find that when they find that space of commitment and it works towards devotion, what happens then, the universe starts showing them luck. The luck just starts to just pour into them, like gratitude pours into them, generosity. The world just becomes very generous to Leo. It becomes so much more super abundant. Because it's like, it's committed. It's like, look, even if something goes sideways, I'm already in it. And I've seen this with myself, even with earlier retreats that I ran, for example. I was scared. If I'm being honest, in the early retreat, I was scared. I wasn't fully committed to the plan. I wasn't fully committed to what I said I wanted to do. And I was a little bit like hot potato, like, well, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And I had too much of the people-pleasing thought process behind it. And I wasn't fully committed to the plan. And what happened? Those retreats failed by my definition. In reality, it wasn't really a failure in hindsight. But in the moment, it felt like they failed. If I'm being honest, it felt like this failed. To me, it was like this failed. Only in retrospect did I feel like it did it.
I find that so interesting because, right, so firstly, Leo, right, if we look at the whole sign system, Leo has Sagittarius in the 5th. You know, so the home domain that's naturally ruled by Leo with Jupiter there, you know, with Sagittarius there. I kind of see that as their creative projects, you know, helping them evolve. And then, like you said, there is that commitment. But then also with the failure side of things, by the way, thank you so much for showing at the Cosmic Warriors Club, but that is something that I had to close. And it's no longer. So yeah, no, I didn't, you know, say to you, but again, thank you for saying. But I do feel the need just to mention that the reason why I'm saying it is because, you know, I feel like the things that don't work out for you in terms of, you know, your profession or a creation, a community, whatever it is, that's still a learning curve. That's a lesson. That is growth. And starting that club actually helped me become a much better astrologer because of what I was doing there for the number of months. And I'm so happy, and I'm so blessed and lucky to have went through that experience. And now I can move forward with Aries energy, right? Moving forward with that information. You said the wee banner there. Yeah. So yeah, but it's so true. There is that moving forward quality with Aries where half the time I don't even realize what I've created, or it's almost like there's not really much of a proper taking in. I think that can be a bit of a challenge, and that it's not really about taking the stuff in. It's just like, right, I'm moving on to the next thing, and then you keep moving forward. But then it's nice as well to look back and reflect and be like, oh, that happened, or I did that. But I don't want to go too much off track talking about myself.
No, that's okay. I saw
So
222 on screen when you were saying it, and it just let me
yeah.
know like you're totally on track. Like it let
Oh.
me know, like with the whole closing of the Cosmic Warriors and yada, for whatever the reasons, it let me know you were totally, totally on track. And there's something that came to me, like I didn't know what you just told me until right now. Something came to me, and I'll just share that with you later to not even get crazy into it. But just remind me 222, and I'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
So, okay, what do you feel like it's something that's like a burning desire on your heart when it comes to this Grand Cardinal cross? If you put your mindset into a service mind right now, and let's take a breath together so we can really like help ourselves do that. If you put yourself into a service mindset, what do the listeners truly need to know to the best of your ability as an astrologer that you can help them to paint a picture? What do they truly need to know? And they must know this. Like your heart is like, you must tell them. You must tell them. You must tell them. And so whatever that is, let's just take a breath, and maybe that'll help us to really clarify what this message will be. So I'm going to sit upright. And what I'm going to do to start this one off, anybody that's watching, I'm going to have you just tap on your chest. All right. Right underneath this collarbone. And that's like this. Every little tap, think of it as little burst of energy that you've been holding onto your chest, that you've been holding deep on your heart, that's holding you back. It's now flying away. It's officially flying away. Everything heavy on the heart, it's flying away. We have no more space for this. It's time to lead with heart. The heart is now taking over of the mind. And to make sure we do that, we're going to go ahead and tap on the head up top. And again, we're going to notice, wow, little energy bolts just zapping out of our heads. So definitely try this if you're watching. Little energy bolts just zapping out. Boom, I'm putting the heart into charge now. I'm putting the heart in charge. I'm going to finish off underneath from the cheekbones. Now we're working with the Aries head, right? So all that extra pressure in the head from the things that we haven't taken action on, we're letting that extra pressure out, and it's going to clearly show us to the next direction. And then we're just going to shake our hands, and we're going to let Gemini to start to talk for us, and we're going to see those lightning bolts zapping out of our hands as well. And while we're doing this, we're going to take a soft inhale. Any tension in the teeth, we're going to collectively release that tension in the jaw. Notice your ears melting, your shoulders dropping. Okay, cool. So Hannah, what burning message, now that your heart is completely free, do you feel we must say?
In order to embrace something new and to really move forward to this place of right with leadership, initiation, self-assertion, it's also about being able to allow for what isn't working to fall away, right? To move away from anything that is holding you back, that is undesired, that is unnecessary, anything that's tearing you down. yeah, it's about being able to let go. It's about being able to release. And if there is anything that is difficult to release, right? Pluto opposite the sun in Cancer, right? Cancer Capricorn axis there. If there's anything that is hindering you, anything that is difficult and challenging, I obviously don't know your personal experience, but oh gosh, I just feel like it's hard. It's hard to speak to the collective because I don't know everybody's personal experiences, and I just have these like images of just people's difficulties, and it's like, who am I to say,
Your
But if
hand
there
of
is
mother loving elsewhere. That's who
no,
you are.
no, 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 no. But really, I I just hope that if there is anything that is very difficult, I hope that you can seek support. I hope that you can gain that support. I hope that there's people in your life who can help. And just drawing from my own experience with this, I've the past few years, psychotherapy wise, when I first started psychotherapy, I didn't think I'd get to where I am today. I didn't think. And that's the thing with this Cardinal Grand Cross. Whatever new challenge is up ahead, whatever new beginning that is terrifying, you're going to get through it. And 3 years from now, like myself, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, you're going to look back then, like the Aries, right? You're going to look back and you're going to be like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I took that first step. Because look how far I've come here. Look how much I've overcome. Look how much I've learned, how much I've gained. And look how much stronger I am, because I was brave. Yeah.
I see somebody saying, let go with love. I think that's critical. Let go with love. This is a huge one. This is definitely a huge one. Thank you, Aurelia. I hope I pronounced that properly.
Thank
that
you.
was huge. Yeah. No, thank you. You when you said that, it made me think like, Aries is, regardless, North Node, the North Node, Aries is warrior energy. So let's be real, it's going to be a year and a half. Like, and God knows whatever transits trigger Aries along the way. That's just too far out in advance. We'll get there when we get there. But there will be triggering transits, right? Cancer seasons, look out. Capricorn seasons, look out. Libra seasons, when they have oppositions, look out. Because those are going to be those trigger moments just off the top of the head. You can call it quincunx seasons, Virgo season. So Virgo leading into Libra, look out, right? Who's the other quincunx to Aries? Scorpio season. That's when I'm running the retreat, of course, in Scorpio rising fashion. Look out. Right? I think there's an eclipse in Libra around that same time frame. So do understand that, like, when I was looking at doing more Mars research on Mars alone, there's this thing that came up consistently. It's always considered God of War, yes. But there's a part that a lot of people always miss out. And I feel like it's important to say that the war only really happens for Aries, or let's say Mars, the planet who runs Aries and Scorpio. It happens with the intention of peace. Like, they're not wars fought for senseless reason. The wars fought looking to gain peace. So yes, it can be aggressive. Yes, it can be absolutely cutthroat. It can be literally monsters. It can be truly violent. And it's a matter of starting to realize that violent energy can be transformed just like hate can. And just like any emotion can. Violent energy does not have to be or turn into something of physical nature. You could take that same violent energy and you can put that into your next creative project. You could put that into a paintbrush and a canvas. You could put that into your song that you've been dying to sing and let your voice soar. So I feel like that's really important to say. Like, do understand that like peace is coming, and if you look through the simple facts, you realize how much harmony has been created over every decade, over every century. Gradually, the land that Hannah is literally living on, there were Viking wars. And yet she can walk outside without worrying about somebody trying to cut her head off. So if we just look at like history and watch the actual progression of equilibrium, of harmony, it has consistently been secured to greater extents. If you look at myself as a Black person, at the end of the day, I'm alive. There are plenty of Black people still dying in the US. A lot of people know the situation. Simultaneously, there are just as many Black people who are beyond successful and doing things that our ancestors could not on that same soil. So we do consistently, if we look at facts and not stick on the past, not stay in the past, we look at the simple facts of progression of humanity, peace has consistently become more and more readily available. And just start to consider what are those things that bring peace. So again, Mars, it will always bring war. It is what it is, but it does have the intention to bring peace. So that's one thing. And I guess the final thing I wanted to say, I took some little mini notes. This is the book that Hannah recommended to me. I really enjoyed it. I didn't finish this particular chapter, but I took many notes. I'm gonna give y'all a speed fire on Aries North Node, Libra South Node from Jan Spiller, Astrology for the Soul. So these are not my words; these are her words, literally. Okay. Number one, we got Aries. Aries is the point of view during this North Node. There's no decisions to be made. That's one of the things that she says. Aries is the point of view. There are no decisions to be made between you and another person. You are here to make the decision right now during this transit by yourself and literally let go of the group thought. Let go of other people trying to help the decision-making process. And then they can help reflect with you later. Okay, number two, vitality, confidence, and joy. This all happens after a single-minded impulse. This is the key. So you don't gain, during this transit, you're not, and I can speak of this truly as an Aries, you don't gain vitality, confidence, or joy until you take the action. I'm telling you that. I don't have the energy beforehand. I don't have the confidence beforehand I do things. I don't have the joy beforehand. It's doing the thing itself that brings me the joy. Meaning, if we do not push forward on an impulse, you will never experience the vitality that comes from Aries energy or this transit, nor the confidence, meaning you will not be confident up front. I'm trying to tell you that very clearly. You won't have the confidence before you do that scary thing. Nor will you experience the joy, nor will you experience the energy and the vitality that Aries has to provide until you take a single-minded impulse. That's the key on this transit. And again, this is all from her book. This is not my words. No personal favorites. Everyone else is beautiful. I have no idea what the hell I meant to say about that. But what I'm understanding as I look, it's saying that the South Node trying to put the energy on, everything and everyone is beautiful. It's trying to tell us to stop having personal favorites. That's what I'm getting, at least in the moment. Stop having personal favorites, especially to impress other people. I think that's one of the keys right there, especially to impress somebody. Okay. The question she wants you to ask a lot of times is, how do I feel about this? And I wrote, I. That was one of the notes from this particular book. How do I feel about this? Prime reason, because in past life, Libra was always having to ask other people, how do they feel? Mm-hmm. And they got so lost in asking everybody else how they feel that they never had a chance, or the energy left, the vitality left to ask, how do I feel? So ask yourself, how do I feel about this? Okay. Next, the next note, it says, never share your decisions. Literally, it says during this North Node of Aries, do not share your decisions. And the reason why that I have here is because you can't change your mind based off of somebody else's approval. Because Libra South Node, they needed a lot of people, not even just one other person. Sometimes it could be your wife or your husband as a part of the marriage, which is probably the most consistent one that we're going to deal with. Probably the person you live with is probably the most consistent, because Libra is still one-on-one relationships. But it says that you can't change your answer based off of somebody's approval if you don't share your decision in the first place. And I found this out from my own relationship with my partner. She's actually a Pisces, which is funny, and I'm the Aries, and she just be doing things. And I caught myself getting triggered at one of these time frames, and I had to pause and look at it. And what was the trigger? It was like, she didn't tell me she was doing that, and it's like, she doesn't have to. She's a grown up. Like, literally, she's a grown up. She could tell me about how it was after the fact. And again, use that within reason, right? Like, I'm not saying this to be an a-hole, but understand, she's the Pisces and I'm the Aries. And as the Aries, I was over here like, you ain't telling me about that? Like, what the hell's going on? Right? And so never share your decisions. I learned this from her. And the irony is she has a South Node of the first house. So it makes a lot of sense. That's just naturally her gift coming back. Okay, next. No initial impulse. Wait and learn your preference. So this is the key on Aries. If you do not have an initial impulse, you don't have to try to create one, right? Like, the impulse is the impulse. You wait for the impulse. And it's saying Aries is a sign of self-discovery, meaning it does not know itself. Understand that. So understand that you're not going to recognize yourself. Everything that you're going to do for this next year and a half, you should realize that you will not recognize yourself. You have to learn the preference. Meaning Aries doesn't have a preference. Until you get to Taurus, Taurus now knows what it likes. It understands very clearly. It's like, look, I'm attached to this. I like this. This is what I like. But Aries doesn't know. Isn't. All right. So it says, if you don't have an initial impulse, just wait. Okay. The question then, Aries North Node, next one. It says, who am I? This is a constant question you should ask yourself during this transit. Who am I? Uh-oh, did I freeze?
Yeah. I think you're coming back.
Did I freeze? Am I back? Okay.
Your sound didn't go off or anything, but it was your image froze.
Okay, I'm gonna switch this Wi-Fi because I see this one's low. 1 second. Okay. I think I'm coming back. I see you now. Can you see me?
Yeah. I can see you again.
So the next one, it says, who am I? Okay. And the key thing about this is it says, apart from other people's projection. So this is what we're all going to be dealing with. We're going to very consistently, Libra is one of the symbols of projection, especially being a part of Venus in relationships, but also a part of Saturn. And Saturn has a natural projection field energy in the real world, right? So the key is you have to take time alone. Wi-Fi, you
Come on, Wi-Fi, work.
Okay. Am I back?
You're very blurry.
Yeah, I do see you frozen. Okay. I'm trying the third Wi-Fi. This kind of what I was talking about before. Like, these three Wi-Fis, they switch which one wants to work the best. Can you see me clear now?
Yeah, a bit better now. Yeah.
Okay. I think I see it going up.
You're
All
back
right.
in the room.
So Thank you. So the next one, the question is, who am I? Apart from other people's projection, because like I said, Venus and Saturn especially has a very big projection field. It cares a lot about what other people think. You have to ask yourself consistently for the next year and a half, who am I? And you can't know who you are if you don't take time alone. I'm just telling you that off the rip, especially if you're in a relationship. Take dates by yourself. It's the most powerful thing I've done as an Aries myself. When I started taking dates by myself, and especially before I even got into a relationship, doing that helped me to continue to respect myself when I got into a relationship. All right. So the next one, these are the last four. The next one, value yourself, sufficiency, to become self-sufficient. So this is one of the advices of this lady, again, like I said, out of this book. She says, value your own self-sufficiency in order to become self-sufficient. So this is a transit where if you feel like you're not truly self-sufficient, spend the time on self-sufficiency. Do self-sufficient exercises. Like intentionally try to do something that requires your own effort. And that way, you'll better attract the people who want to support your cause, whatever you do. Okay, next one. Reactionary and judgmental when others care for themselves. Okay, so this is one of the shadow sides. Aries can be very reactionary, and specifically in this North Node transit, Aries can be very reactionary and judgmental when other people care for themselves. If you notice that you want to react or become judgmental when somebody else is caring for themselves, it likely means that you should water your own garden. The reason, again, Aries is the North Node, Aries is the individual going forward on this, but it's coming from a past life where it really mattered. Everybody else's thoughts and feelings, it mattered as a part of your own self-worth. It was conjoined. It was married. Literally, these energies married. So just keep that in mind that, self-care happened not for the self. It was like group care almost. It was like relationship care. It's like, look, it was more like by me taking care of you, I feel better. I feel good when you feel good. If you find yourself saying this is one of the key themes of letting you know that you're likely need to do some individual work on being mindful of when somebody else just decides, I need to take care of myself. I need to go do my own nails. I need to take a shower alone. I need to go eat by myself. And you find yourself getting annoyed or flustered by that and you can't handle it, it's a good sign that it's time for you to do exactly that thing that is pissing you off. Okay, next one. Last three. Recognition, motive, self-discovery, and satisfaction, not war. What the hell did I mean again? Okay, so this is, somebody said this earlier in the chat. This is the part of Aries that will do something for other people to recognize it. So this is more of a warning trait. Don't do things just to be recognized by somebody else. It's saying that if you choose personal satisfaction and you choose self-discovery, no matter if you triggered somebody else or not, it's saying that the universe is going to back that decision during this North Node in Aries. The key with this is generally war will happen when you do it for recognition motives. When you do something to be recognized, you're likely going to create a war between you and whoever. You're likely going to create a war. But when you do it to discover something for yourself and to experience personal satisfaction, the universe is going to say, look, that's their problem, that's not yours, and it's going to support you instead. So if there is a war, it won't be with you. It'll be with that person and themselves, even if they try to project it back onto you. So understand that the South Node is going to have a lot of projection energy for the next year and a half. All of us will be projected on more than usual this transit for a year and a half. So the tricky thing with this is when you start to recognize it, you can't turn around and say, oh, you're projecting onto me. Because the moment you do that, you're also projecting back onto that person. That's the hardest part when you recognize somebody's projecting onto you. To not turn around and say, you're projecting onto me. Rather than to notice it, you got it. You notice it, You realize it, and then you find your own center for yourself. And then by you doing that, that person will be face to face their own mirror. And it might be difficult because Aries is very sensitive. Understand that the past life of South Node and Libra, we're very sensitive to the other people. And this is where we start appeasing. And this is when we start people pleasing. And this is when we sacrifice our own joy, satisfaction, and vitality just to not piss that person off, just so that they don't have to do their work. And what I had to learn is, in order for us to really take responsibility, as Stefan is saying in the chat, in order for us to take true responsibility, we have to let the people we care about to deal with that trigger on their own. And be there as a supporting cast by showing them by exemplification, here's what it is, in a sense, to honor self-discovery, to honor personal satisfaction, and to not create war based off of the insecurity and uncertainty of how your person is going to react. That's one of the biggest warnings. I feel like I've seen this in real life already in action. And it's one of the biggest and the hardest things to do, because it's like the moment we recognize somebody projecting onto us, we want to start saying, I learned this new ability and I now know that you're projecting onto me. And then it turns into a war. It turns into a war. But that's exactly what needs not to happen. What needs to happen is you are self-sufficient with the North Node in Aries. And I'm telling you that theoretically, all of us in a year and a half will be. But that also means that we're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. We're not going to get this perfect up front. Self-discovery means you didn't know crap about whatever you discovered prior. You didn't know. So the key thing with this is be kind with yourself that you just didn't know. And understand that Aries is very innocent in this natural interaction where it goes, I'm sorry. I honestly didn't know. Like, my bad. And it really means it. Because I can promise you, as Aries myself, we do not apologize unless we're truly sorry. I've noticed it by myself. I will never apologize to somebody I'm not sorry for something I'm not sorry for. I don't care. If I'm not sorry, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say it just to make you feel better. All right. So the last two, Aries wants someone to feel their center or their identity. So this is a key one with the South Node and Libra. Again, our partnerships is what made us feel whole. We're being asked to let this go. We're being asked to recognize how we have this craving for somebody else outside of us to fill our center, to fill up, to show us who we are, to tell us this is my identity. That doesn't work for Aries in the North Node. Aries has to go discover its own identity. It cannot allow somebody else to become your centerpiece. And then by you being your own center, then you can interdependently, not codependently, interdependently work together and depend on each other in a healthy committal way, not in a codependent and self-sabotaging manner. Self-sabotage being defined in this particular instance by you not aligning with your own identity. All right. And the last one I have here is resentment will likely come, especially without boundaries, when we're looking to create false harmony. So any false harmony narratives, we're being asked to let it go in the South Node and Libra. It will hurt you. You will be resentful. And likely, and the scary thing about resentment is a lot of times it's a very silent agent of chaos. Because when we resent something, we generally don't say that we resent that thing. That's what caused the resentment in the first place. We're being asked with the North Node in Aries to recognize that, man, my boundaries are really not that good in this area of my relationship with you.
I think a lot of that has to do with people pleasing as well. I feel.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like
1000%.
I feel like people pleasing can be, well, it's quite a big topic today. Even I've seen a lot of those words being thrown around, people pleasers. Yeah, and Libra can be quite a people-pleasing energy, and that kind of leans to the whole thing of creating a war within yourself whenever you go against a want or go against what you want to initiate. That creates a war within you.
Exactly. 1000%. No, you hit it on point. And the key thing with this is boundaries. What I've learned about Aries anger is they only really get angry when they cross a boundary or they let somebody else cross their boundary. Usually it's when they cross our own personal boundary And it's usually more when I realize that I didn't have a boundary in place in the first place. I've learned that anger is the indicator for Aries. It's a boundary indicator. But then you have to, again, do some self-discovery and realize, is this a boundary that I already set and I'm mad because I let someone else cross it? Is this a boundary that I've never set? And I realize now that I needed to have that boundary and I'm angry. Is this a boundary that, and you got to kind of play with that. Like, understand the whole thing about Aries is it does not know what comes next. It is always in the dark. Just understand that part. It's always in this space of uncertainty.
Yeah, and I think just, I'm sorry, I feel like
No.
I need to say
Please. I
this.
love passion. Hit me.
I also feel as if what comes with that is the part of Libra that doesn't really like to get angry, the part of Libra that can hold back when it comes to being aggressive or too like demanding or too assertive. Libra, of course, can be assertive, but in a more subtle way, right? There's more of this sociability. There's a way to sort of be charming as a way to maybe end a conversation, as a way to maybe walk away from a situation, or as a way to maybe disagree with someone. You know, a Libra could disagree with you, but not directly disagree with you and say, I disagree. It's just like, oh yeah, I don't know how to word it because I don't really have a lot of Libra energy myself, but you know, it's more about, yes, okay, I hear where you're coming from. I hear you, but I'm not going to necessarily like disagree or get into an argument with you. There can be that side to Libra, but at the same time, very diplomatic, you know, extremely diplomatic. And the ability of a Libra to be so like so good at conversing, so articulate, so wise when it comes to people. I admire that. I really admire Libra's sociability. And again, I think that South Node energy, I do see it obviously as we are trying to kind of ease up on that energy, or we're trying to move away from it a bit. But there's also those skills, those gifts that you can bring, you can carry forward. And so, yeah, trying to approach relationships in that way may be quite beneficial. So being diplomatic. And I feel like with my secondary progressed ascendant being in Libra, and then, well, to be fair, my secondary progressed moon, I think, is in Gemini, but I still do have my natal moon in Aries. And I have noticed this so much throughout my life, this challenge on this axis, this back and forth between, I just want to get my needs met here. I just need to put myself first versus, okay, but there's other people who are a part of this and I need to respect their feelings. I need to hold space. I need to contain their emotions as well. You know, if I'm getting upset or frustrated about something, they're also allowed to get upset and frustrated about something. And it's not, it's, you know, I think the Aries urge can be like, you know, the childlike qualities of like, I'm the child and I just want my needs met. But there's growth in recognizing that other people have needs, other people have wants, other people have feelings. So I think maybe this nodal axis, even with the eclipses happening within these signs over the next 18 months to 2 years, these things are going to come up. It's me versus we, you know, it's me versus us. What do I want versus what do you want, and how can we maybe negotiate, how can we compromise? But then I think also this North Node is going to show us what can't be compromised on. You know, there's certain things in relationships you can't compromise on. I don't know where you're going to live. You know, if you're set, I want to live here, and your partner is set on, no, while I want to live here. How are you going to compromise on that? Or if your partner is set on, I want children, and the other person is set on, I don't want children. How are you going to compromise on that? Yeah, I think there can be room for discussion, and it's still about having those conversations, and it's not about making decisions super, super quickly. But the North Node in Aries is still looking at, don't create that war within yourself. You still have your own wants, your own desires. They matter. So that could be quite tricky.
So no, you hit a lot of points. And I never said this earlier, but you made me think about it now. Even everything I just read, I think what's important to add into it is when a South Node, part of the South Node means that we've already mastered Libra. So if I'm using it in this instance, I'm saying that collectively speaking, we're coming from a new level of mastery of all things Libra. So all the things that I had just said, I'm simultaneously saying that all those Aries traits that we're leaning towards, this is what we don't know. These are going to be the difficult things to do, to choose yourself. The easy thing to do is what you already mastered, which is selflessness. We've mastered, we're coming from a new stage of mastery. All right, I'm not going to say complete mastery, a new level of mastery with Libra in the South Node, where we already know how to be diplomatic. We already know how to be tactful. We already know how to sit the fence. We know how to include everybody in our decisions. What we don't know how to do is to not include other people in our decisions. To choose yourself, even if it creates a little disharmony, instead of choosing false harmony. Reverse of each one of the things said. And I think this is what's important of like, we're coming in with Libra abilities. Right now, I'm saying that we are better Libras than we are Aries. From a transit perspective, like we've already have this level of mastery with Libra coming in. So the key thing is, in the next year and a half, everybody's going to have confrontation, not simply by choice, but from a place of just not knowing. Like we're going to create conflict because we're not used to choosing ourselves. And we don't necessarily know what happens on the other side when we do choose ourselves, but we're going to learn. It's the same thing with the North Node that was in Taurus. It's like we're coming from a place of merged values where we never had the space to think about, well, what do I value outside of my intimacy? But if you look, we just finished, so everybody can reflect on that one more accurately. Now, today, we feel like we're worth everything at an individual level, separate from our partner. And that's increasing. It's either doing one or two things. It either broke your relationship up or strengthened your relationship. Like for me, myself, I know with me getting more in tune with my personal values, I hit and I bumped head with my partners here and there. But simultaneously, our relationship is stronger than ever. Because we're not in this merged value standpoint. Like her values are hers and mine are mine. But I had to get back in touch with mine. She had to get back in touch with hers. And as we did that, it's like we came from already understanding how to merge values, collectively speaking. What we didn't know in the beginning, because we're saying this, Taurus just ended, but that's after a year and a half. So I'm saying this after a year and a half. I'm saying this as of a couple of weeks ago, I understand this value standpoint. So it's the same thing happening with Aries and Libra right now, where we know how to converse with others and to not piss somebody off and to avoid and to manipulate through that avoidance of certain discussions that require conflict for deeper and sincere peace. And this is the difference. We're not talking about false harmony. We're talking about sincere harmony that is really heartfelt, where it's like, I'm good with this and you're good with this. Not you're good with this, you're good with this, you're good with this, you're good with this. Oh, but I'm not. You don't have to leave yourself out of the equation in this transit coming. This is what I feel like is critical, especially understanding we have already come from a new level of mastery of Libra. That's what this South Node says. So we know how to be selfless. That's not the mission. It's not the direction. It's about implementing what you already know in the spaces of diplomacy, of justice, of tact, of projection in relationships. We know projection. We've seen it on the internet from all these psychologists posting on memes on Instagram. We understand what it means for somebody to project on us. 2 years ago, I did not know what the hell it meant to have somebody project onto you. It's a brand new term for me. The term has existed forever, but I only understood it over the last couple of years. And only over the last couple of months have I actually been able to start learning, oh, here's why when I do realize that, I got to let them go through that themselves, because that mirror will bounce back on it on their own. There's nothing for me to do here except for be kind and understanding that this projection is happening. And that's something that I need to let them work through because I care about them, not take that chance away from them to work through that. And the irony of that process is it's all about respecting ourselves, pursuing our own interests. Because in the meanwhile, while that person is dealing with blah, 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 you're off now going to a dance class for the first time because you've always wanted to do it and you never have. But now you're going to that dance class. And so now while you were at that class, this person miraculously comes home like, oh my God, this time and space that I had to myself, I now realize that I was projecting onto you. I just was. And you know what? Like, I'm sorry. I didn't know it before. And I thank you for not trying to solve this problem for me. Because
and
if you did, then it never would have stuck. Hit me.
You can own them as well. You can own those qualities. You know, when you notice, of course, working with the unconscious, it's hard to notice, isn't it? Because it's unconscious. But when you can bring awareness to it, with that projection, you can integrate those qualities.
Yes.
You know, if you look at someone and you say, well, you're so angry, you're a really angry person. And it's just like, but you're being angry right now, but you don't recognize that you're being angry. You can own that anger and you can actually integrate it and you can go, It's okay to be angry. It's actually okay. That's something that's been coming up for me a lot within psychotherapy, is that anger is such a normal emotion and we just equivalent it to violence. We just equivalent it to like, I'm going to tear you down and I'm going to attack you.
Yeah.
But anger, being able to just shout, being able to express, like, I'm pissed off. I am pissed off at you.
I'm pissed.
That's not a bad thing. And it's so often, that makes me angry. Like, it's so often seen as this really negative thing. And it's just like, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm telling you, as an Aries, I've been dealing with this my whole life. There's the theme, the one word of anger, and one being misplaced, two being misunderstood, and the list just goes on and on and on. And she worded it perfectly in ways that I never thought prior. That anger, and actually my partner did tell me about this prior, that anger is oftentimes a boundary that either doesn't exist, needs to exist, or it exists and it wasn't respected. That's anger. That's what the emotion is here to signal and tell us. It's that simple. It's really not so much more complicated than that. It is that simple. It's a boundary that doesn't exist, that needs to exist, or that does exist and we didn't respect it. There's nothing more to anger. Like, when I look at it like that and I started re-engineering how I considered it, because it's like some point growing up, somebody at some point of my critical development in childhood was like, yo, you can't be that angry. And it's like, what they did tell me is, yo, you were lacking boundaries. Like if they were really trying to mentor me, if they were really trying to support me, they could have said, yo, look, like, you don't have boundaries. And if you did, like, you'd be good. But life and Aries, self-discovery, this is the whole key word. I had to discover this. I just did not know. Because even when I found out, then I was angry about the fact that I didn't know. I'm like, God damn it. Like, all this time, I didn't even know it. And it made me more angry. And then expressing the fact that that made me more angry helped me so much to realize that my anger is a freaking superpower. Now, no one can walk over my boundary. Now, if I'm missing the boundary, it gets implemented damn near immediately. And this is the North Node of Aries again. Immediacy is a key theme. So when that resentment raises, it's time to go ahead and attack that with immediacy, with a sense of urgency, a sense of I cannot wait. And the whole key thing with this is understand that you might have to take some of that back. Don't be so stubborn that you can't recognize when you went too far and apologize. Like, sometimes, I'm telling you, everybody listening to this, the North Node, a year and a half, you will have to go too far in order to travel in this unknown space. Be kind with yourself, understanding that Aries operates in darkness. It operates in the unknown space, much like Scorpio. They don't know. So what I'm saying is if the finish line is here, but you're starting here, and you push a little bit, And you know what? Wow, you feel better. You started respecting yourself a little bit more. You did a couple individual actions, but then you stop right there. You stop at your first little victory. Well, you got all this space. So maybe you push again. And then maybe now at this point you get a little pushback from this inline that says, "Oh no, you can't do that." And maybe you don't understand why they feel that way. And maybe you don't understand why you feel resentment. I'm telling you, you're going to likely need to push again. And then you're going to hit this wall and you're going to feel great. But then you're not going to know you're at the wall yet. And this is a very innocent process. So you're going to push again. And now you went too far. Now is that time frame that, one, pat yourself on the back because you successfully did what you needed to do during this transit, coming from a selfless place of always choosing the harmony, false or not, with Libra, tact or not. Where now, yeah, you push through that wall and you owe an apology. So pull out your sincere muscles, put your heart into it, walk back to that person after some time alone to reflect of how you overstepped that boundary or how you overstepped your own self-discovery into somebody else's boundaries, and realize, hey, you know what? Like, honestly, I'm truly sorry. Like, I needed to do this for myself, but at the same time, I don't want you to have to take the impact negatively for this. And I'm trying to help rectify that by realizing that I went too far. But I also realized simultaneously that I went too far, yes, but I needed to do that because I had to figure out what too far is. What did that mean? I don't know what too far is. So I had to realize that it was more important for me to not play small in the world anymore because I'm sick of playing small. I don't want to play small anymore. So in order for me to better contribute to this relationship dynamic, I needed to play big. And this is my first time playing big. And so I did go too far. It happened. I truly mean it. Like, I recognize my fault. I thank you for your patience. And from here, I now know the line. And the thing is, that person's either going to be cool with that, they're going to forgive it, and y'all going to grow and y'all going to strengthen in relationship. Or they're going to realize that they loved when you played small. And they're going to try to put you back into a small box. And that likely relationship will that's the relationship that's going to end in this year and a half. That's the relationship that will end. Mark my words. You will very, very clearly realize how many people wanted you to play in this little tiny ass play box because it benefited them and they gained energy from you playing small. You became their energetic servant. And vampires don't like that. So that's the other side. So all you really got to focus on, personal opinion, is keep your side of the street clean. Do the best you can. Play big. Be careful and realize when and how you play small. And play big on purpose. But just be willing to rectify when you go too far. With heart, with sincerity, with commitment in that sincerity. And you will never go wrong. You will never go wrong with that. I promise. And if somebody else says you do, then question that shit. Like, honestly, have some sincere questions. Like, now, why, man? Like, I've never felt this good in my life, and yes, I did go too far. But now I'm starting to feel like I'm being put back into a box, and that's the box I just left, and it's the reason why I'm feeling good. Leaving that box is what made me feel this good. Somebody else will match and reciprocate this beautiful energy with you. No matter how much you love this person, no matter how many years you've been together, if they don't match it, I promise you on everything I love, somebody will match that. And you will likely be much happier with the person that matches that and praises you to play big. That does not allow you, as somebody who cares about you, to play small. So that's all I got for the Aries North Node. This, when I think of the Grand Cardinal Cross, all of those things that we said in accumulation today is a part of this push. All of it is a part of this push. And I think we all have the skills. We all have the ability to do this and still respect other people.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who are still here, on the video afterwards, I want you to drop one of the 4 emojis of the Grand Cardinal Cross, the one you may have resonated with the most, whether it's Cancer, whether it's Capricorn, whether it's Libra, whether it's Aries. Once this video finished, whoever video you're watching, go ahead, support us, help the algorithm out, get those likes and comments up in there. All right. Do not check out Hannah's Cosmic Warrior Club because it does not exist. And I thank you so much for speaking up on that, because she just did something right there for herself. One, by making the shift, that's a prime example. I'm sure somebody wasn't happy that she'd ended that. I'm positive somebody wasn't happy. But at the end of the day, she is. And it's going to allow her as a curator to better support the next group of people that she's here to support, whoever the hell that is. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, with this gate 3, Aries North Node in gate 3, the whole beginning is considered the primordial chasm. It's the in the beginning, meaning in the beginning, there's nothing but space. There will be met by you will be met with difficulty. It's an automatic. But also understand it simultaneously. As you're met with the difficulty, this is where you want to be. Because if there's anything I learned as an Aries, if there is not a challenge, you have no vitality. And it's a very crappy place to be as a fire sign with your fire so dim. I'm telling you that from personal experience. It sucks. Aries requires challenge. So does Scorpio. It's a part of Martian energy. If there's no challenge, there's no life. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, you will be in this dark space. You will be uncertain. You will likely want to speed up in these moments of uncertainty. Sometimes you're going to need to. Other times you need to wait for that next impulse. Because the only real safety net you have in this is if you're following an impulse that leads you towards self-discovery or personal satisfaction. Within those, you can apologize to anything and anybody if necessary, but not just because they want it or expect it, because social expectations are being left behind. So beyond that, I think this concludes the live today. If Hannah has any closing message she wants to give, feel free. Otherwise, I'll end the broadcast and I'll share that 222 thing with you backstage.
Yes. No closing messages. Just want to say thank you all so much to anyone who's watching this right now. And definitely if you're here, of course, even on my own YouTube channel, make sure that you follow Pernell Bobby, because Pernell has a lot of really enlightening information and content available there. So much more information even about like the South Node in Libra, the shifts happening. So definitely make sure that you check out his channel. And thank you so much for having me today. Pernell, it has been, it's been enjoyable. It's
super
been
pleasure,
enlightening.
Super pleasure. No, absolutely. And everybody, same. I've seen some people that are not on the link channel from Hannah that are on my channel. Check her out as well. Just go over to her video, give it a thumbs up anyways. Even if you watch it on my channel, just go give it a thumbs up. It's that simple. We'll all see you soon, ladies and gentlemen.